1 minute, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Finance and Audit Committee meeting to order. Our clerk today will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. I'd ask for a procedural motion to proceed in camera. We also have Councillor Gesselbrock attending electronically this morning. Welcome. Today's Finance and Audit Committee meeting will be held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. If during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question on a matter that was considered today, please sign up on the sheet located on the table to the double doors to my left. Please note that Council Procedure Bylaw states questions will only be taken on staff reports and other business items. Before we start the meeting, I would like to take a few moments to remind those who are attending in person about the rules of decorum for all council and committee meetings. A meeting of council is intended to be a place where democracy can freely take place in a respectful and safe manner. The council chambers is a workplace, and there are considerations council and staff must make to ensure that a safe work environment exists in accordance with WorkSafe BC regulations. To support this, and in accordance with the Council's procedure bylaw, disrespectful conduct will not be tolerated, so we ask that there be no cheering or jeering or other disruptions from the gallery. Furthermore, the use of electronic devices for recording or photographing is prohibited unless otherwise authorized through the media accreditation policy or by the chair. This will ensure that anyone speaking, whether it be a delegation, member of council, staff, is not interrupted and can make their point freely without distraction or fear of ridicule or intimidation. For recording or that will ensure that anyone speaking, whether it be a delegation, a member of council or staff, is not interrupted and can make their point freely. That said, there may be moments during certain presentations or recognitions where clapping or expressions of appreciation are welcomed. I don't think we have any of those this morning. In instances where a speaker is being inappropriate or has exceeded their time limit, their microphone will be cut off. Similarly, if there are disruptions by any person in the gallery, they will be asked to stop, and if they do not comply, they may be asked to leave as permitted under Section 133 of the Community Charter. If necessary, Council may call a recess in order to reset the environment of the Council chambers. It is our belief that if everyone is respectful of these basic considerations, this meeting and future meetings will be more effective in furthering the business of the City of Nanaimo. The first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items, Ms. Gurry, and we do have a number. Please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. For agenda item 8C, hub relocation, funding and service delivery update, we're adding the following delegations that weren't included in the original agenda. And that's Diana McIver, Kevin Williams, Alexander Marbach, Naomi Woodland, Sydney Robertson, Gail Murray, and Colin Middleton. And that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favour? Any opposed? None. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Eastmere, seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favour? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. The first item under 6 is 6A, KPMG preliminary audit presentation. Ms. Mercer, you're going to introduce this, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Ms. Bates-Emer is here today to present the audit plan for the 2025 financial year, and I will hand it over to her to walk you through that presentation.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bates-Emer, good morning. Welcome again.
Good
the floor
morning.
Is yours.
Thank you. See if I can figure this thing out. Why is it always so challenging for me? So I can skip forward, pressing green. Oh, there we go. Okay. So good morning, everyone. I am Liette Bates-Emer, the Audit Engagement Partner. Our other team members involved in this audit are listed up on the slide there. So Sarah Burden is our Senior Manager on the file, and she's been involved for several years, as have I. And then we do have a behind the scenes, another partner involved in this audit as our quality review partner that reviews the financial statements and our deliverables such as our plan and our findings that we report to council. At this stage of the audit, we're in the planning phase. I will confirm our independence as your auditor. I will again confirm our independence at the completion of the audit. The fees that we charge for our work are consistent with the proposal that the city accepted several years back. I think we're in the the fifth of 5. There was a 3+2 in our contract, and we're in the last year. In our plan, we have discussed the materiality that we plan to use in conducting our audit work. So this year, the materiality figure that we've established is 5.5 million. Last year, that figure was 4.4. The materiality figure will trend with the growth of your gross revenues and expenditures. So we have calculated our materiality for this year based on budgeted total expenses. So last year we were using total expenses as well. The figure, the 5.5 million is about 2.1% of the budgeted expenses, which the percentage of the benchmark is pretty consistent with last year. Our standards allow us to go anywhere from 0.5 to 3% of a gross benchmark. So we're, you know, we do have room to actually have a higher materiality, but we're comfortable leaving it at 5.5. That number is meant to represent the maximum level of error that could be in your financial statements before a user of the financial statements might change a decision or change an economic decision if there were to be something wrong by greater than that amount. With the materiality of 5.5, we do, that kind of drives our thresholds for our testing. So we're testing at a much lower level. And we are also going to report back to the audit committee any errors that we find throughout our work that are greater than 275,000. So you will see reporting at a much lower level, and we do report any differences that we find throughout our work that are corrected as part of the audit process or that remain uncorrected in the audit. In our report there, you will see we have identified one significant risk which is not unique to the City of Nanaimo. This is a risk that needs to be identified in all audits that we perform, large and small. You know, the tiniest audit we do all the way up to public companies, banks, anything, will all have this risk. So the description of this risk looks scary when it's talking about fraud and management override, but again, this is not unique to the city, and we have sort of standard procedures that we use to address this risk, which is our journal entry testing, looking at any significant estimates or unusual transactions. We don't have any other significant risks identified for the city. Our audit approach takes a look at risk. It's risk-driven, and that kind of determines the scope of the work that we're performing in the kind of areas of audit focus. And so we've listed out there kind of the main areas in this audit and some sample procedures. So for the tangible capital assets, this is one of your most significant balances, right? We are looking at, we are testing any new items. We recalculate amortization or do analytical procedures over amortization. Wages and benefits, you do have some estimated liabilities for employee future benefits, and so we look at some of the work that's performed by an actuary to verify those liabilities. Cash, investments, and debt we can confirm with third parties. Revenue and deferred revenue, so we look at some of your grants to the actual letters to ensure that they're treated appropriately, and then we can perform analytical procedures on things like the tax revenue. And then expenditures, again, we can do a combination of analytical procedures, but then we are also looking at cutoff, so making sure that you've captured everything related to 2025 in the 2025 year. In terms of any future accounting standards changes, auditing standards changes, there's nothing much to report for this year. There is a tweak to the auditing standards which requires certain communications around independence, which we have incorporated. And then the next set of public sector accounting standards changes is not applicable until the 2027 year end. So there's the conceptual framework and new financial statement presentation that may result in, we're thinking hopefully just sort of a rearrangement of your statement of financial position might be the biggest thing there, but that's not for a couple of years, which is good, gives management a break because we've had a few years of adopting things like the asset retirement obligations and Last year there was another suite of standards, so have a bit of a break there. And then I think that's kind of it for this year's plan.
Thank you very much. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question for Ms. Bates. I'm just wondering, when you talked about doing the measures that you have to the 5.5 million,
Yeah.
is that lower than usual, or is that customary that you would do that? And, and if it's unusual, is it just this year? Or I'm just wondering if you could just explain just a little bit about that.
No, I think that's typical.
Okay.
We, like I said, last year we were at 4.4 million, so
Okay.
we've come up a bit, and I think it goes along with the risks and the users.
Yes.
And so we probably do have a bit of room to go higher, but we weren't comfortable jumping up by too much
Great.
in 1 year.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any further questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation this morning. It's always good when your auditors tell you there's nothing exciting in the audit, and that's a good news story and a compliment to our finance department and all the people who work in it, and council wishes to express their appreciation to them. All right, the next item on the agenda, as we have no delegations on other items, is reports, and the first is the Park Amenity Improvement Request for under the Partners in Parks program. Ms. Bhopal Singh.
Good morning, Council. The next 3 reports I'll be introducing under the Community Services section. This one here, with regrets, we don't have Ms. McDonald with us, but I do have Ms. Davis, our Deputy Director of Parks and Natural Areas, and Ms. Osborne, our Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture. I'm going to quickly just give an overview of this, and then they'll be available for questions. So Council already knows this, but the community might not. We have a Partners in Parks program that has been in effect since 2008. It supports community projects in parks that evolves with community needs. It also allows for neighborhoods that want a higher level of maintenance than the city can provide to do that with volunteer support. So today we have a report for decision for you with 2 projects that staff have evaluated with long-standing partners, including the BMX group and the Connect Evergreen Park neighbors. The first one, the BMX one, is for enhancements at the track that would allow them to host bigger events and their day-to-day operations. The second one is for a volunteer group who has for decades helped maintain the Connect Evergreen Park, which is in the 9th Avenue area, to a higher level of standard, and that's to provide a storage building for the equipment that the volunteers use to maintain the park. And if you have any further questions, we're available. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons has moved the recommended motion. Councillor Armstrong has seconded. Do either of you wish to speak to it? We'll go to Councillor Hemmons first, and then Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you to staff. I love this program. I'm happy to see the funds go to BMX as well as the Connect Evergreen Park. Noting that a shed with tools in it would be a target, how do we propose to make it vandal-proof, a vandal-proof storage shed? Can you tell me a little bit about that? Thank you.
Ms. Davis, please. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. Through the Chair, don't want to give away too many of our security details. However, we do have methods that we use special locks and special hinges. It's one of the ways that we will make sure that this is as vandal-proof as possible.
Thank you. And I just want to note a line here for people who are not familiar with this program. And I think one of the reasons that makes it so amazing is just out of the BMX PIP funds, will help purchase materials for both projects, and BMX will be responsible for labor, installation, and contract management. I just think that's a wonderful partnership, leveraging a spirit of volunteerism and a few public dollars to really improve amenities. So great to see this go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Thorpe, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Yes, happy to support this. Partners in Parks has always had a spot in my heart, although it might be 2 sizes too small. But such a valuable program, and it really encourages neighborhood participation in their own park areas. I did have a question, though, Your Worship, through you, if I may, and just a curiosity question. I totally support these two projects, but can you tell us, maybe Ms. Davis, seeing as Ms. McDonald's not here today, is the program, is there a lot of uptake still in this program? You're receiving lots of applications?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Thorpe, there is. And though we have not allocated all $100,000 from the 2025 fund, we do actually plan to carry the remaining 70,000 forward into 2026. And we do have a suite of projects that we look forward to bringing to you early next year. We have a new parks planner on board and new energy. And so we are actively engaging right now with new groups. So we have some really exciting projects to bring forward in hopefully Q1 of next year.
Oh, excellent. That's good to hear. And also recognizing that applications that come forward are dependent on the neighborhood organization having their act together and having a shared common view of what they want. So that's good to hear. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further questions or discussion, motion's on the floor. All those in favor? And any opposed? Councillor Gesselbrock, you're in favor? Thank you very much. Motion carries. The next is culture. Thank you to both of you. The next is Culture and Events Grants 2026 recommendations. Again, Ms. Bopal Singh.
Good morning again, Council. So the report you have before you is again one for decision. The city gives a substantial amount of funds to a variety of arts, culture projects, including operating grants. I think the important key here is many of these grants provide enhanced services to our community and supports a range of different groups that we would be hard-pressed to provide the same level of service from directly. So you've got the report for decision. We have 3 staff here. I'm going to turn over to Ms. Osborne to give a more detailed presentation on this. And we also have her managers, Ms. Adrienne Mercer-Breen, and also Jamie Brettsine, who has authored the report. So over to Ms. Osborne. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, His Worship and Council. The purpose of the report before you is to recommend that Council approve for the 2026 Culture and Event Grant Funds our operating grants, project grants, and the Downtown Event Revitalization Grant, also known as DERF, to support the activities of the non-profit cultural and heritage organizations and contribute to the success of the many events and initiatives planned for the downtown core. Each year, the City of Nanaimo invests in the arts and culture and downtown events by providing funding to eligible organizations in the 3 grant streams that are administered through Parks, Recreation and Culture, but primarily led through our Culture and Events team. For 2026, Parks, Recreation and Culture administered the following amounts. For our 1-year and 3-year cultural operating grants, $401,688. For cultural project grants, $53,733. And for our downtown event revitalization grant, $250,000. The total budget available for all 3 grant streams this year for 2026 was $705,421. This is a significant amount of funding. However, the funds requested for all 3 of these grants were totaling $929,233.50, almost getting close to that $1 million mark. At the deadline of 4 p.m. on October 7th, 2025, the following applications were received. For our cultural operating grants, that's again the 1-year and 3-year, we had 21 applications. There were 19 successful grant applications, 10 for the 3-year operating and 9 for the 1-year. The committee deemed 1 application ineligible and 1 organization pulled out or dissolved their application. For our cultural project applications, we received 18. 15 were successful, 2 were unsuccessful applications, and again, 1 organization dissolved. And for the downtown event revitalization, we had 30 applications. 1 application was moved from to DERF from the project, and 26 applications were successful, 3 unsuccessful applications, and 1 dissolved. An interdepartmental staff committee undertook the review of these applications based on the grant criteria and the assessment matrices, which are in your package, attachment A and B. and have recommended allocations of all of the funding to support a range of activities contributing to the cultural profile and vitality of Nanaimo for 2026. The allocation summary is provided in your attachment C. After initial recommendations were made, the committee also identified standby organizations and projects and events in each stream in the event to prioritize funding in the event of any additional and/or returned funds throughout the year. The quality of the applications this year in all three grant streams speak to the thriving cultural community, with programming and events embodying the strategic priorities of our city plan, reflecting innovation, diversity, community impact, and cultural enrichment. The grant review process demonstrates how vital culture grants are in the ongoing operation and success of Nanaimo's art and cultural organizations. The recommendations are before you, and today I have beside me Miss Adrienne Breen, who is our Manager of Culture and Events, and next to her is Jamie Brett-Sine, who is our Cultural Coordinator, who oversaw the project and the operating grant process review, as well as behind me, Deborah Beck, who is our Special Event Coordinator, and Deborah oversaw the Downtown Event Revitalization Project. We are available to answer any questions you may have on the allocations.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the very detailed report. It answered just about all the questions I would have had. But the only one I do have is when you said that there were 2 were denied. Do you go back to tell them why were they denied and maybe help them for future years?
Sorry, we were having a hard time hearing your question, Councillor Armstrong.
The question is, for those that were denied, do you go back to tell them why they were denied and maybe offer support to how they can improve for future years?
Through his worship to Councillor Armstrong, absolutely. Our team spends a fair amount of time working with the organizations prior to the application process. We require that they all attend an information session where we go through in detail the application process and the criteria needed to be met for each project or each grant. And then following the denial process, we follow up and work with them for hopes that they will be able to be successful in the future.
Thank you, and I'll be in support when the motion is read.
Thank you very much. Councillor Eastmere, then Councillor Perino.
Thank you. Through you, a question about the standby events. Am I right to assume that they are numbered and that's the order of priority that they would be selected for?
I can. Through his worship to Councillor Eastmere, absolutely. We look at those applications that we were unable to fund, and we also look at whether or not we can increase funding to ones that did not receive their full request in that process.
Okay, so
Just through the chair, I'll just add to that a little bit more context. So that is correct. We do have priority organizations. With that said, depending on when we have returned funds, we also have representation throughout the year because there may be some festivals that have already passed by the time we have returned funds. So there are a few considerations when it comes to where we distribute those funds, be it a priority organization, an organization that was largely or had greater underfunding than we would have preferred, and then also consideration for when we have those funds throughout the year.
okay, so it's a little bit more complicated than the 1 through 10, for example, for the revitalization fund, but that's sort of generally how they've been prioritized.
Yes, that's how, say we had the funds immediately, then that is how we would prioritize, and then we have other considerations should those funds come to us halfway through the year.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Councillor Eastmere actually asked the question, but I just have a short follow-up. I'm just wondering when will these groups have to come back to the council table, or will they automatically be given the right to go forward and you'll just agree to it at that point?
Through his worship to Councillor Perino, yes, we come back to council with the recommendation to re-administer the funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any further questions. Councillor Hemmons moves the recommended motion, seconded Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Sorry, Councillor Eastmere again. Sorry.
I was just going to thank staff for their work on this, and I think it's a really impressive list of projects, and it speaks to how much the city is supporting arts and culture, and I see a lot of these organizations doing a lot with a little, but we're also offering some significant funding to many of these organizations, and they wouldn't exist without it. So I think it's a great partnership, and we all win as a result, so thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
I do have a question. If we're approving up to that total amount, which we're going to be doing, why do you need to come back to us to get approval? I don't understand. I think it's redundant.
Through His Worship to Councillor Armstrong. My correction on that one, the report before you identifies those organizations, and so we would not in fact be coming back to you. My apology on that. The report before you identifies who those are, and we would administer in the order of the criteria. So thank you for calling that.
Thanks.
Still got to come back to a full council meeting too. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much to the three of you. Appreciate it. The next is the Hub Relocation Funding and Service Delivery Update. Ms. Bhopal Singh, please.
Okay. Through the chair, while staff take their seats, I'll briefly introduce this. So I'd like to make it clear, given the number of people interested in this report, this is a report for information before council, not a report for decision. And it is staff coming back to you as directed from a motion in July of 2025, where council provided funding for the hub until March of 2026, and also directed staff to come back with options and an update on how the services of the hub could continue at a different location. So we have here our Manager of Social Development, Ms. Christy Wood, and her our Director of Public Safety, Mr. LeBerge, and Ms. Wood will give a good overview of where things are at. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bhopal Singh. Ms. Wood, Mr. LeBerge, good morning. Welcome, both of you. Let me say at the outset, and particularly to Ms. Wood, so that everyone understands, I think, how council feels. We have placed an enormous burden on you in your position. You have faced criticism from some quarters, completely unfairly. You have responded appropriately as a professional public servant, and council very much appreciates what your shop does.
Thank you, Your Worship. I really appreciate that support from you and the rest of council. So thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning. And I just to start off, I know council's aware, but I'm just considerate of the gallery and folks who possibly are at home. Just want to remind everybody the hub. It's located at 55 Victoria Road. It's a key access point for people experiencing homelessness to access immediate basic needs and stabilization supports, such as health services, shelter, and housing services as well. The hub model is a partnership between two operators, Island Crisis Care Society, who operates the daytime service from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Nanaimo Family Life, who operates the overnight shelter beds between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. As a reminder, too, the daytime services are currently being funded by the city and Reaching Home federal program to approximately $1.08 million, and that was provided for 2025. The overnight shelter piece is funded by BC Housing up until April 30th, 2025. In July, the committee will remember that this committee received an update on the hub services, and the report highlighted the importance of the service provided at the hub, and there was feedback from residents living around the hub. Some of the challenges they reported, so seeing an increase of visible homelessness, open drug use, and some traumatic behaviors in the area. The committee also at that time heard from several delegations from residents living in the area. So following the Finance and Audit Committee, Council approved an additional $125,000 to maintain the daytime services to March 31st, 2026, and this was to maintain service levels over the winter season. Council also directed staff to collaborate with the hub service providers and United Way BC to find a more suitable location and to report back to the Finance and Audit Committee in the fall with an update. So the report before you is this update. The current service usage right now on demand, the demand that they're seeing averages roughly approximately 83 unique visitors per day, with numbers occasionally exceeding 100. Additionally, the hub sees approximately on average 1 new visitor a day, so sometimes that's new. So this is a new visitor to the hub, just to clarify the difference between when I say unique and new visitor. And recently, some of the trends that the hub has seen is they're seeing an increase in housed people who are seeking food and health services, approximately 2 per day on average. And this group includes, residents from other non-market housing units, but also some seniors who are living in market rentals in the area that are looking for support around food security. The overnight shelter services are oversubscribed. Nanaimo Family Life reports with more than 1,500 turnaways since opening in January. And this averages about 5 people per night, but sometimes when the weather is poor, sometimes those turnaways average about 10. The current site of the hub, we know, does not meet the demand or the infrastructure requirements for the number of individuals relying on the service. A more suitable facility with enhanced amenities that we've talked about at this table before, showers, laundry facilities, and additional bathrooms is needed to improve programming and align with the long-term service delivery goals. The relocation is also intended to address Council's concern regarding the neighborhood impacts and to provide the necessary infrastructure for delivering services in a way that minimizes those impacts. However, it is important to note that wherever a hub is located, there will be visible homelessness as individuals travel to that location, along with the diverse complex needs that are associated with homelessness in general. Identifying a suitable location for lease has proven challenging, as you've seen in the report, and as we reported to Council back when we settled on 55 Victoria. Many landlords are unwilling to lease to these services, and available spaces are often geographically inaccessible, require significant capital investment for renovations, and are only offered for sale rather than for lease. So approximately 20 properties have been explored so far, and none are meeting the minimal requirements. So as far as next steps, relocation is now a priority under the recently launched Provincial Federal Alignment Project, and that's an initiative designed to streamline governance, programs, and data systems to better coordinate to respond to homelessness. And so staff are arranging an update for Council early in the new year to learn more about this project. And under that project, the Homelessness Response Leadership Table is co-led by BC Housing and United Way BC, brings together partners from health, housing, Indigenous organizations, and municipal staff to coordinate efforts. And staff have requested the hub relocation be established as a formal working group under this governance structure to ensure that there's collaborative decision-making and shared responsibility for this site. The group will work to identify and assess potential locations, develop funding frameworks, and plan short and long-term options for maintaining the indoor space, and progress report will go back to the Homelessness Response Leadership Table to ensure transparency and accountability. And if a new site is secured, the group will work with partners to create a sustainable funding model and comprehensive service delivery approach. But I will note that this will be challenging work without the capital resources committed to it. In the meantime, staff are updating the service agreement to extend the daytime hub operations until March 31st, including the allocated funds that Council directed staff to do. The Reaching Home funding cycle is also now open, and hub service providers will receive support to submit an application if a new location is identified. And this cycle, new this year, offers the potential for 2 years of stable funding, providing greater certainty for service continuity. And NFLA, Nanaimo Family Life, is working with BC Housing to maintain the additional 20 shelter beds in the city. Overnight shelter beds may continue at the continued site until a permanent location is secured, even if the daytime services end there. But this, of course, has not been confirmed and will be dependent on discussions with BC Housing and the property owner. So looking ahead, efforts will continue to focus on identifying a new location and securing that sustainable funding with community partners. And finally, staff will work with a variety of partners, the hub service providers, health services located at 55 Victoria Road, the neighborhood association, to discuss what relocation or closure of the hub may look like in that area. So we're hoping to hold several meetings in the new year to plan for this. And really we'll be looking at what available supports for individuals who may no longer be able to access the hub there, expectations for service providers in the building, and impacts on the surrounding neighborhood, recognizing that the demand for services may not decrease in that area because many of them access the health services at 55 Victoria. So Mr. LeBurge and I are here to answer any further questions that the committee may have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate what a challenge it is. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. My question is, when we're looking for new sites, and obviously landlords don't want to rent because they're concerned about the social disorder that comes with the drug use, has there been any talk or discussion with BC Housing about if another site could be used just for those that are not in active drug use? Which, like, you know, we hear that the seniors that are looking for places, whatever, which may open up one area so that we can move some groups and then maybe find another area for those in active addiction?
Through your worship, to Councillor Armstrong, we haven't had specific discussions on recovery type services. The focus for the relocation of the hub is to take the whole complete service, so the daytime and the shelter services, especially because it's serving as an access point to the hearth units through the by names list. So that kind of sets the criteria. But we did hear from BC Housing, and as councils also heard, they don't have any funding to support daytime services, and nor do they have any capital to support any kind of relocation of the shelter. So we just haven't even got past that discussion. We've just been more focusing on funding and location services.
And my last question on this, is it being tracked for those that are using and non-using, so that that would be information that's readily available if to support cases for both?
Through your worship, we are not tracking that through the city reporting. We do get quite considerable reporting from the daytime services and the overnight shelter services, but we don't get reporting about that.
I'll ask that of the providers when they come forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbrock, then Councillor Hemmens, and Councillor Perino.
Thanks, Mayor, through you. Just a question. In the report, it looked like there was lots of looking for properties to lease, and I'm just curious, you know, I know there's budgetary restrictions and all that, but are we identifying potential buildings that we could purchase or land?
Through your worship, we've been looking at all options. We haven't been looking at specific properties for purchase. If properties were for sale for a long time, we did approach them to see if they were interested in leasing, but not for, we haven't had a dedicated search for properties for purchase, no.
Okay, thank you. You know, I think that's something that we should be considering in potential opportunities brought to council. Just for review to get an idea of what the price range is if it looks like leasing is not an option. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to staff for your report. The alignment project, two questions. The first is that the homelessness response leadership table, is there any neighborhood participation on that? Noting that it's bringing together health and social service leaders, housing providers, Indigenous organizations, municipal staff, and other partners to set direction, ensure accountability, and coordinate resources. Are neighborhoods or residents of areas where hub services are operating, are they other partners?
Through your worship to Councillor Hemmens, the Homelessness Response Leadership Table just launched its first meeting. And of course, we're at that table, so we're learning a lot about it. Right now, I'm just seeing sector representation at that table because it's more of an overarching way to respond to homelessness. As I mentioned, there's a working group that's been struck, and what we've been doing, instead of creating a whole new working group, is we've been using the existing weekly meetings that we hold with the service providers, as well as our monthly meetings with the whole building as well. And SICA has been invited to the monthly meetings. Right now, they're just working out some scheduling of who will be coming, so that forms some of the working group. But I'm happy to go back to the Homelessness Response Leadership Table to talk about getting neighborhood representation at that high-level table.
Thank you. I think that would be interesting, not giving any sort of direction there. The transition piece, sorry, I just want to articulate my question well. It's noted that city staff will host a transition meeting with service providers, health services, and neighborhood residents to discuss relocation. Is that the working group? And sorry, just I'd like to really know where the neighborhood sits in understanding when the services are closed, what it looks like.
Yeah, through your worship. I've had a couple of conversations with the chair of SICA, who's been great to work with and discuss about these plans with. And the plan is really for us to get together to early in January, I'm hoping January, to talk about what the closure will look like at that location, and then what we can expect, and the continued city supports that would be offered to the neighborhood, and what that looks as well.
Great, thank you. I appreciate all your work.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. An excellent report, and the report we really were asking about was about an update about relocation efforts and funding status and next steps and all that. So what I'm going to ask you is unfair. I'll just say that up front. I'm just wondering if we're seeing around 85 to 100 people a day, is that number improving? Is it getting worse? Are we able to do, I guess what I'm wondering is, are we seeing some good success stories about moving people through this system of them going to the hub and then moving forward to other options?
Yeah, through your worship, it's not an unfair question. It's very valid. So thank you for that question. I know through the delegations that the committee has today, you may hear some of that. We know that through the overnight shelter piece, 21 people have been housed, and these, from my understanding from the service provider, are individuals that don't normally access shelter services and they stay in that downtown core. So they have been housed through that. We also know with BC Housing and the by names list that people have been connected to housing through that service as well as treatment and detox services and health services through that site as well. And they can speak a little bit more to that. I know we've had some delay in the hearth units as well as being fully occupied, but I know that the vacancy table still meets, and they are moving people through that by names list and prioritizing, giving them some prioritization into the hearth units.
Okay, so do you think then that the numbers are getting better or just continuing to get worse?
Through your worship, I wish I could give a more clear answer. December 3rd, we did a homeless point in time count.
Yes.
We've received some preliminary numbers, and I suspect that there will be a report coming to council in early January of that. I can say that there's a slight increase, and there are some alarming stats. You guys have heard at the table a lot about seniors living in their vehicles. We're noticing a high number of people in their vehicles, as well as this year, for the first time, we included youth in our count, and it was pretty alarming, the number of youth that were counted in the count. So we're helping people. I think we still have a long ways to go.
I certainly appreciated having this report, and the work that you do is just so valuable, and thank you for everything.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong, and Councillor Eastmere. Thank
you. I just wanted to let the audience know, as well as council, that there's a recommendation coming from the Public Safety Committee that this be a standing item on the Public Safety Committee for input, and we've had some very good discussion by the Public Safety Committee on possible solutions, and I agree with what Councillor Hammond's saying. If we want to get people behind these projects, we need to start right away, not just throw them into their communities. We need to start mitigating the issues that are going to come beforehand. So just wanted to throw that out, that it will be coming as a recommendation to council as a standing item on public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. I appreciate the questions asked by other councillors, because I think especially the piece around the neighborhood engagement feels really critical, both now for the transition and then as we search for new locations. Is the possibility of like a modular or mobile option been explored at all, like a mobile shower trailer or something along those lines that we could locate on city property?
Through your worship, to Councillor Eastmere, I know that that's been kind of discussed within community partners. Staff have not done a directed look for that because we haven't been directed by council to kind of explore that option. But I know that community partners have looked for that. Again, it's the capital that becomes a bit of the challenge, is that we have, you know, some tentative operational funding, but no confirmed capital for property or for the purchase of those types of units.
Okay, I appreciate hearing that it's because you don't have council direction to explore that. I think maybe that's something we should have a further conversation about as we think about what we might be able to do with money that we had intended to operate the hub for. I've also had a question from a neighborhood member about the possibility of using like a network of churches to kind of host something like this. Has that been explored? What is the feasibility of that, in your opinion?
Through your worship, we do have quite a few churches that are helping kind of in this. You know, we have St. Peter's. We've had churches respond to step up to provide emergency weather response shelter under the BC Housing Program. I think that what we've heard, and Mr. LaBerge also has been working in the community for a long time, so he may have a few pieces to add about that. But what we've heard is just the complexity of the individuals that are being served, that churches, you know, for a long time have been relied on, are feeling a little bit burnt out and don't have the necessary experience or knowledge to support these individuals. But
Mr. LeBerge, please.
Thank you. I would just simply add that most of the faith groups advise that their space is fully subscribed on their own program during daytime hours, so those opportunities are very limited.
Thank you. Sorry, and one more question about the duty phone number that had been given to some neighborhood residents around the hub, but not others. Can you explain like how the decision is made of who to give that phone number to, and if it should be made more widely available to people as they try to work with our CSOs and in addressing the conflicts they may have in their neighborhood?
Yeah, thanks for the question. The intention of the duty phone is primarily for service providers. The proper and appropriate way to triage calls to the CSOs is through the Public Safety Department. That way we can form files and they can triage them by priority. Often when the CSOs are engaged working in the field, they're not really in a position to answer the phones, and it goes to voicemail. So it's really a matter of efficiencies rather than including some, excluding others.
And so when you say triage to the Public Safety Department, that means that they should be calling bylaws?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to staff, this is a bit of a cheeky question, but there is no resolution here, right? There is no network of churches, no mobile units, no managed encampment, we don't know the solution here. Is that true?
Through your worship, I would say that's an accurate statement. Without a new location, we don't have a solution here.
Okay, thank you. I just want to, I surface that to emphasize then I believe the role that we have to play is to ensure that when these services are open, that it's integrated well and that neighborhood is really involved, because there is no matter where we put one of these things, it's going to attract and it's going to be hard on that immediate neighborhood. So this is an intractable problem that you can't solve, that I can't solve, that we collectively can't solve with the resources we have. And I just want to surface that as there is no reasonable option here or an outcome that we all will agree on. So sorry for that dose of reality, but it needed to be said.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We do have a number of delegations. The first one is Deborah Hollins, Executive Director, Nanaimo Family Life Association. Ms. Hollins, good morning. You're familiar with the drill. 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when there's a minute left. Welcome. If you can just introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning. I'm Debbie Hollins, Executive Director of Nanaimo Family Life, and we operate the evening services at the Hub. I'm grateful to be able to speak to the urgent need for 24-hour services for unhoused individuals and why the Hub has become the clearest example of what works in Nanaimo. The Hub, despite falling a few hours short of a 24-hour service, is the only place in our city where unhoused people have consistent access to support during daytime and evening hours. This matters because crisis, illness, hunger, trauma, and withdrawal do not operate on a schedule. Without a 24-hour system, people fall through the gaps, and the entire community feels the impact of that. Since we've opened, we have supported 392 unique individuals. Of those, 132 identify as Indigenous, and 112 are senior citizens over the age of 55. People who are particularly vulnerable to injury, illness, and exploitation on the streets. This is who we are serving, and this is who benefits most from continuity of care. Let me share a real example that shows how daytime and nighttime connection changes outcomes. In late November, a social worker from Vancouver was urgently trying to reach a senior woman who uses a wheelchair and had to come to Nanaimo because she was not receiving the adequate support that she required. She was staying in our shelter overnight and connected to the Hub during the day. NFLA and ICCS were able to locate her immediately, coordinate with the social worker, and host a meeting on site. In 1 month, she made more progress than she had in years, simply because she had consistent access to services across the full day. This would not have happened in a fragmented system. Another example clearly shows how 24-hour services quite literally saves lives. Last month, a client preparing for a housing appointment experienced an overdose just outside of the hub. Staff responded within seconds, administered Narcan, coordinated emergency services, and stabilized her. 72 hours later, she moved into housing. She has remained housed because she continues to rely on the hub as a safe daytime resource. In this case, nighttime shelter provided safety, and daytime support saved her life. And the connection between the two created a pathway to housing. These are not isolated stories. Through the hub, 21 highly street entrenched individuals have been placed into housing, and every one of them has remained housed. That level of housing retention is extraordinary, and it is directly tied to consistent access to care, trust, and follow-up made possible by near round-the-clock services. The hub is also meeting immediate survival needs. To date, over 3,900 meals have been provided. 6 individuals have obtained new identification, and 8 people have accessed LEAP passes, improving mobility and access to appointments. 2 individuals were supported into treatment programs outside of the community, something that only becomes possible when people are stable and supported long enough to say yes to help. So why does this model work? Because many unhoused individuals struggle both night and day when withdrawal, mental health systems, and conflict escalates, and during the night when fear, cold, and violence are very real dangers. 24-hour support smooths these transitions and keeps people connected long enough for housing, healthcare, and recovery to take hold.
1 minute.
The hub has become the central point of contact because it's open, accessible, and staffed when people need help, not just when it's convenient for the system. Outreach workers, health teams, legal supports, and emergency responders know where to find people. Clients without phones now have a reliable place to connect with services. A true 24-hour system allows people to rest at night, stabilize during the day, and connect with supports. If we want a safer, more stable, and more compassionate Nanaimo, then this approach must be part of our core strategy. The evidence is already there, and the hub is showing us what is possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong, please.
Thank you, Ms. Hollison, for the work you do. To my previous question that I asked earlier of staff, do you track those that are in addiction versus those that are not?
We don't track that information, no.
Okay, thank you.
Much appreciate the work you do, and I appreciate it's very challenging. Just going back to the statistics, 392 individuals, 132 were identified as Indigenous, and 112 seniors. Obviously, you know that one of the concerns that will be expressed here today is around the behaviors of people outside of the hub in the neighborhood. Do you have any suggestions for what would make, how shall I say, reduce the impact on the neighborhood, to use some general term?
Well, in that particular location, is that what you're asking, Your Worship? Yeah. I think that, well, we have explored different entry points into the hub, so taking it off of Nickel Street and putting it on Victoria Road. We believe that could help mitigate some of the concerns because of the activity so close to the highway, which is a worry, not just for the neighborhood, but for our guests as well, and the danger that they face. By being there, they face increasing violence from people driving by as well. We've had many examples of that occurring. So that would be certainly one way of mitigating that impact.
I'm going to raise an issue that isn't necessarily entirely directed at you folks, but in terms of location. You know, there is a great deal of historical merit for what are referred to generally as therapeutic communities. Most of the individuals that you've described are folks who are unhoused, obviously, who need a place to sleep, who need a place to be during the day because they're sheltering if they're lucky, or they're just sleeping in the streets at night. Have you had any discussions with the, how shall I say, your monetary providers around the possibility of a therapeutic community, and not necessarily in an urban center? And I'm not saying I'm proposing the attitude out of sight, out of mind, but candidly, in urban centers, my observation is it's easier for drug dealers, it's easier for human trafficking to occur. Could you offer you some comment on that, and whether, as I say, the funders have even raised this possibility with you?
We have been in ongoing conversations with BC Housing. Nanaimo Family Life has. In fact, we just had a meeting yesterday talking about some of the solutions and focused directly on the hub and the people that we're serving. And all of those, you know, would be, of course, you know, things that we would love to discuss. However, the reality is that these people are currently in our city. They're on our city streets. They're in the doorways of our businesses. They are here. And so if you're asking my opinion on solutions, we need a purpose-built building in Nanaimo that will give 24-hour services for these folks, that offers access to housing and treatment, counseling and support services. And I know that's not a popular answer because those aren't cheap solutions, but you're going to be facing that in years to come as we see the rising population of those who are unhoused taking to our streets. And so it's a now or never, it's a now solution or a delayed solution, but that's what we need.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong, then Councillor Perino, then... Oh, okay. Councillor Perino, then Councillor Eastmere.
Just to say thank you for what you do. I'm so pleased that you're there, and I know you work very hard to do it. I'm just wondering, given your experience, what you're seeing on a day-to-day basis, is there any other, besides, as you said, the purpose-built building, are there any other quick wins that we're not doing that we could be doing to make things better? Because as you say, you're trying to get them into services, you're trying to get them into housing.
Yeah.
What else would be a quicker win for us to approach?
Well, we have looked at with city staff and as a group looking for we've looked at you know, what's the possibility of buying a piece of land and putting temporary places on there. The fact of the matter remains that the solution is that those folks who are unhoused need stable services where they can get the treatment that they need, that they can access housing that they can need, and that they can stay in the housing that they need. That will be a successful long-term resolution for them. Okay. And these kinds of services, the hub daytime services and the shelter services, help folks get ready for that eventuality in their life. And so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you for your presentation and for your work. I fully agree about the need for a purpose-built location. We did write to the previous housing minister and flagged the need for that after he'd commented in the media that he'd never heard a desire from Nanaimo for something like that, despite us absolutely having said that. And I believe that we did mention that when we met with the new housing minister during UBCM in Victoria, but at the time they hadn't done it yet. But since then, they actually have done that in Victoria. Mm-hmm. So I think it is worth a follow-up. But we do know that that ministry and BC Housing have been pulling back on commitments that they've already made to build new housing, and so I think that is going to be certainly a battle to get something like that, but nevertheless the need for advocacy on that is critical. Can you speak to how it's been going with neighbors and the initial letter that was sent to neighbors about sort of how that relationship would be managed, especially around like guest behavior? And you're really only able to manage like guest behavior indoors, right? Or do you have some rules of behavior for people who are maybe on the sidewalk or in the surrounding neighborhood that you try to address?
Yeah, good question. I will speak for the evening services and NFLA. So absolutely, we within the building, we are helping people with behaviors and redirecting them. We do some work on the street. We have even gotten coats and vests for our staff so that when they're on the street that say staff in very bright letters, that they can be interacting with guests without, and the neighborhood can see that. But no, we can't be going, into the neighborhood, interacting with individuals who may be exhibiting challenging behaviors. We can certainly act as a referral, like as a support service for that, but we can't be sending our staff. That would put them in danger. And so we do our very best to contain the behavior to the building that we're in.
Okay, I understand that. Do you have you considered like peer-led teams of folks who might be accessing the drop-in center, who might be willing or able to volunteer with like neighborhood cleanups or something? Is there some type of program or initiative like that?
I believe that ICCS can speak to that, and that is already happening. And what we know in working in this population is that the relationships become very important. And I know in the shelter, we've developed very close relationship with some of our guests, and they do actually help us in our work exactly the way that you are envisioning that. I know that also happens in the daytime through ICCS and their relationships with the people accessing their services as well.
Thank you. And just for the highway safety, like that, I think is one of the biggest pieces that really worries me. Have you spoken to anyone other than the city, like the Ministry of Transportation or anything like that, around possible improvements just to prevent anyone from accidentally falling into the roadway? Like, it just really worries me driving through that.
Yeah, I do believe, we haven't spoken to the Department of Transportation, but I don't know if they could do anything for safety's sake. I think one of the answers that we really looked at was moving the entranceway. And however, I believe there was some structural concerns for doing that, and asbestos concerns and financial obligation would exceed what we have available to us to make that change.
Okay, thank you. And maybe that's something to go back to staff just for clarification on like why, because we talked a little bit about it at public safety, and there was some sort of combination of work safe issues and then capital projects, and I feel like maybe both of those are things that could be addressed.
Okay.
Councillor Armstrong.
Your Worship, I just would note Councillor Gesselbrock's had his hand up for a while.
Yes, I know. He's the last, maybe.
So my question is, do you think being close to the pharmacy actually also leads to more social disorder, that not everybody that's the social disorder is actually attached to the hub, but they could be going to the pharmacy to get their methadone, et cetera, which makes, because you've got so many high needs people in one area that aren't necessarily staying at the hub, then the public perceives that it's all because of the hub when it could be from other.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. That's an excellent observation. And it's not just the pharmacy. There are many services located in that building that serve this population. AVI is there. There's other service providers there. And so it is a location where people are coming to get their needs met. And we can't always know if this person is accessing the hub. I think the hub is taking a lot of heat for other services that are there, unintentionally, of course. But yeah, perception is reality, and that's what we're dealing with right now.
Thank you, and thank you for mentioning that, because I have seen videos of people throwing eggs, et cetera, at the clients from the hub, which I think is disgusting. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbrock, please.
Thanks, Mayor, through you. Thanks for all the work, Ms. Hollins. And I just question regarding, in terms of the service providers and communication with BC Housing, it sounds like the request for a permanent location that has, you know, the showers and all that is one of the main requests coming, and that's been clearly communicated to BC Housing. They know what the ask is from the community in terms of what we're needing with regards to services and a location.
So sorry, you're asking me if BC Housing knows that that's what we need?
Yeah, it's been made very clear to BC Housing that this is what the community needs.
Yes, that has been made clear to BC Housing, yeah.
Okay,
And that we need a purpose-built building, much like what we toured in the summer in Vancouver. We saw that, you know, a building that has showers, that has laundry services, food services, you know, that's working. And so we're asking for the same thing here. We're a small city, but we have very big city problems, and we have to start thinking differently.
Great, thank you. And then just in terms of what you're seeing in terms of the hub's usefulness in being a point of contact and helping people move into more stable housing. Are we seeing the increased usage of the hub? Is it helping reduce numbers of folks being on the street, or is the issue just so large right now that people are becoming aware of the services and utilizing it, which is creating a sense of more and greater accumulation in the location, as opposed to what the intent is to really be a place to stabilize folks and then move them to, you know, a more stabilized situation?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you're right. I mean, we're seeing an increase in numbers, and I thought it was interesting to hear that people who are unhoused are now accessing the hub for people who are housed are now accessing the hub for services. And so, yeah, I think that we've been here for a year, and we have become that central point where people are coming to look for help. So whether that is more numbers on the street or people just realizing we're here and using us more, I'm sorry, I don't know, but I would suspect it's a bit of both.
Okay, thank you. And finally, just in the conversations around mobile services, you know, it does get brought up and discussed of having, you know, if there's maybe a centralized hub, but also, or alternatively, say 4 locations that, you know, where a service is moved, you know, within a reasonable distance apart, but not that's unwalkable, as a potential option to pursue. Is that something that could work?
I would be happy to look at that. I don't know how that would work. I imagine I'm thinking about staffing, I'm thinking about all of those kinds of things, and sort of pressuring even more communities with that kind of model, but I'd be happy to look at service models that maybe currently exist and how that works or doesn't work.
Great. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, thank you very much for being here, Ms. Hollins, and for the work you do. I suspect this morning, as we work our way through the 14 delegations, we're going to hear similar messaging. We're going to hear about the positive outcomes that the hub has created, and I appreciate that, and your success stories. And we're, I'm sure, going to hear about the unintended negative consequences on the neighborhoods that sometimes unfortunately occur, and fair enough. We need to hear both sides. And it is a balancing act for council to decide how to proceed. And I wanted to ask through you, Your Worship, and I apologize because I've been making notes, but I missed the numbers that you gave us on the breakdown of your clients. Would you mind repeating that again for me, please?
392 unique individuals,
Yes.
132 identify as Indigenous, 112 are senior citizens over the age of 55. We have housed 21 street entrenched individuals. Yeah, I think those are the numbers.
Yeah, thank you very much for repeating that. And I guess my question stemming from that, and it's really more directed at staff, I believe, but given the number of Indigenous individuals that have identified, it seems to me that SFN would have a real vested interest in this project and in maintaining a hub culturally for their citizens. So I guess, if I may, Your Worship, through staff, has SFN been directly consulted about ideas for a placement for the hub? Would they have any input or suggestions that might help them culturally?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor Thorpe, thank you for the question. SFN is involved in the hub in a variety of different ways. They actually have their homeless outreach team that provides regular service to the daytime. They're also making referrals to the by names list through that. And when we did originally set up, it was set up through the CAB, and SFN is on the CAB and supported the services of the hub.
And I guess, thank you very much. I guess what I'm asking is, have they been consulted or expressed any opinion about a preference for general location?
Through Your Worship, no. We haven't, because we haven't identified any locations. The other piece is out of concern and respect from what we heard from council in the neighborhood, we've been avoiding locations in the south end.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and sorry to keep you, Ms. Hollins. You've been very good this morning about answering questions, but in response to Councillor Eastmer's question, to some extent you've responded to this. When she asked about sending staff out into the neighborhood, you said, would put our staff in danger sending them out. And I appreciate we have here sort of a divided audience, those in support of the hub and those from the neighborhood who are being impacted by it. And I wonder if you could just comment a little further. What do you see as the danger of sending staff out, and are the people coming to the hub or people coming to other facilities the ones you see as the source of that danger?
Well, I mean, as their employer, we have a duty to make sure that staff are safe when they leave our premises, to go into situations that, really are situations that may call for RCMP or, other service providers that are trained to deal with those. But as an employer, we cannot be sending our, staff out into the night to deal with situations that we haven't vetted or know very little about. Now, having said that, our staff do go and speak to when crowds have formed and have them disperse. And again, with relationships, that's worked pretty well. But beyond that block, it would be irresponsible for us as an employer to send them into a situation. And we, when those situations come to our awareness, we support people in calling our CMP or the safety officers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
All right, thank you.
The next delegation is Lisa Klassen, I assume I'm pronouncing it correctly. And that's the in-hub manager. Ms. Klassen, if you can introduce yourself for the record, please, and when there's a minute left of the 5, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. My name is Lisa Klassen. I'm the hub manager. I'm a little nervous, so
don't be nervous. We're not a dangerous crowd here.
I do thank you for the opportunity to come here and speak. Every single day, almost every single day, I'm working at the hub. I help 80 to 100 people. They come in, they're wet, they're tired, they're hungry, they have no clothes because they're soaking wet, and we help them and we get them situated. They're bringing everything with them, everything they belong in a shopping cart. They're pulling it inside. We're trying to get it dry so that when they leave in the rain again, that at least it's starting off dry. When they come to the hub, they can eat, they can use a bathroom that flushes. They have privacy, they get clean clothes, and for a few hours, they get to feel human. They get to sit at a table, they get to eat, they get to converse with people that know them by name, right? They get to rest and exist with dignity and respect and feel safe. About 40% of the people that come in there are over the age of 50. I'm over 50, I know what they look like, and I can't believe my arthritis gets me. They're living outside. Right? Faith. Faith was driven up from Victoria by her pastor because there was nowhere to live in Victoria for her. They found her an apartment, but all of her money goes to that apartment. She comes in every day, little lady, 55, 60, wearing a black smock with her big rosary, because she's very Catholic. She comes in, she walks right amongst everybody that's in there. She comes up, she gets a sandwich, and she sits down, because guess what? That's her food. She's got no money for food. She's got no companionship. She survives at the hub. That breaks my frickin' heart, right? People shouldn't be 55 and 60 having to come to a hub amongst folks that are struggling with drug addiction just so that they can eat. We need a senior center somewhere. If the hub closes, we're gonna see those people out on the street. They're not gonna have a bathroom because you have to buy something to use a bathroom. And if they have some kind of illness that makes them go to the bathroom, they're gonna do it wherever the heck they are because you're human. That's what humans do. You can't shit your pants and then walk around with shit in your pants. Better to pull your pants down and shit where you're standing. And that's what's gonna happen. I know the hub can't function in the South End because there's too much. I understand that. And I'm sorry for that. But that's what we have right now. We're not asking to be in this location forever, but we're just hoping that you can extend our funding so that we can find a location, so that we can move and we can help continue to help these people get off of the street and back into housing so that they can heal. Homelessness is just getting worse. Y'all know it. Y'all see it. Every day I get to meet someone new that's newly homeless because they can't find housing anymore because their money isn't enough on compensation, on some type of disability. They just don't have the money. We have people in wheelchairs, walkers, 72-year-olds that are coming in there because they have nowhere else to go. They have no family. So I apologize that my emotions are on my sleeves and sometimes they just pour out. But that's what makes me the good person that I am to run the hub and help folks, because I know their names. Some of them came here today just to sit in the audience with us and support us, right? Because we know who they are. And we're building that level. So I respectfully invite council and mayor, anybody to come one day, anytime.
1 minute.
And just see who we serve, see the impact that this vital service has in this area with the people. Come and see what happens when dignity is replacing displacement. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. And I understand where you're coming from, but what do you say to when we get the little kids coming up to us and saying, why are their lives more important than mine when I can't sleep in my bed at night because I've been threatened, et cetera?
I don't think anybody is more important than anybody else. I think everybody has a right to feel safe, especially if they have their own home, they should feel safe. So we need to find a solution, but we can't find a solution by just ending it and pushing them all back out on the street.
Well, we know there's solutions. It just requires political will to give the money from senior levels of government to help us build. As the mayor said, I'm a huge believer in therapeutic communities. I think they work well, or even a phased approach to how we're doing it instead of just lumping everybody into one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino and then Councillor Easter.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for being here, and thank you for doing the work that you do. I'm just wondering, you talked about when people come in and they're wet and you make sure that they get a change of clothes and so forth. All the clothes are donated, is that correct? How do you work that? I'm just wondering about that portion of the question.
So we have a lot of donations coming in from churches.
Okay.
Harvest Church goes out and buys brand new stuff from Costco and stuff. But I also worked with the Salvation Army in town and the stuff that they're going to recycle. So that's stuff that's been out for sale. So it's selling worthy. Okay. I pick it up instead of them recycling it, okay, so that I can put it for our hub folks so that they end up with good, clean clothes.
And are you able to clean their clothes that they are wearing or anything like that, or do you end up
We are still waiting for our permit from the city to hook up our washer and dryer.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastman.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your work. and the heart that you put into it. And I am a really big believer in the need for something like this, like a permanent location. And I wish we could have something that would also have like housing up top. I think the aspect you identified about the need for a seniors center is really crucial. And I don't know how we work towards that, but I wonder if the person that you mentioned also has the Leisure Economic Access Pass. I feel like she might benefit from that through the city. I think some of the points you raised about the need for food services is really a piece that we need to work on through the social planning grants that the city has. And I just want to thank you for your invitation to visit the hub location, because I actually haven't personally been inside, so would really welcome the opportunity to do that. So thank you very much, and yeah, thanks for the information.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you, if I may. Thank you, Ms. Clausen, for being here. I was really interested in the facts that you supplied us, and especially the fact that 40% of your clients are over the age of 50. And that does speak to the need for some type of senior center, I think, and the example that you gave of the lady that comes in is a great example of that. It seems to me, as I listen to you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you seem to be dealing with two main groups of people. And would it be fair of me to say that the problems or the negative impacts of the hub have resulted mainly from people who suffer from some type of addiction crisis?
I would say the main item that causes so much disruption is mental health.
Right.
There's nowhere so when you have mental health issues and you mix it with addiction, then you got a lot of trouble. And you can't redirect. It's very hard to redirect someone that's having psychosis. Mm-hmm. And that's what we see a lot.
Right, and thank you for that. And I guess my impression is that a lot of the mental health issues that we see and you see have been caused, not all of them, but a lot of them have been caused by addiction issues.
Well, I think it's both. They're both the same. You have mental health issues, you end up using substances to accommodate that. You're on substances and they cause mental health issues. So I think it's pretty balanced, really. From what I'm seeing, I live way up in Whiskey Creek, right? So I don't see a lot of what I see when I drive to Nanaimo, but I've always worked in this area. So the people I see, it's a pretty balanced, okay, right? The seniors that come in, there's a small percentage that are not using. The other 72-year-old man with a walker, he never used when he first became homeless, but now he's using. It's his only way to cope on the street, right? You fall into it.
Right.
It's so hard to see people that should be grandparents with babies on their knees and they're using drugs because they don't know how else to cope.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And maybe I'm being too simplistic here, but I almost feel that there's a need for two streams of service. And one is more along the lines of a traditional seniors center. And the other stream is for those who also, in addition to food and clothing needs and so on, need support with their mental health issues. And if those two could be dealt with separately, it would probably simplify our problem or how to solve it.
It would break it up, you betcha. Because then the folks that are seniors, like you said, they would be able to maybe not use drugs because they would find another way to meet people, to live, maybe cohabitate together, find a place together.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
That to me seems like an ideal solution, not an easy one, but an ideal solution. And of course, it would require the senior levels of government, especially the province, to step forward to provide the space required and the services provided. But anyway, thank you very much for your information.
Ms. Clausen, could you comment on the relationship that the hub has or doesn't have with the Nanaimo Brain Injury Society? And the reason I raise that is
Nanaimo what?
The Nanaimo Brain Injury Society, for example.
We don't have any relationship that I know of, but I would love to have relationship with every avenue because it just strengthens us, right?
The reason I raised this is that there was a national study, I've never read it, I've only read a report of it, that indicated that over half the people who hit the streets already have some form of acquired brain injury. And I never talk about the street disorder without describing it as a mental health, addictions, trauma, and brain injury crisis. And so those complex cases require a level of care that is not going to get solved simply by supportive housing. That's the reason I raise it. Thank you for your attendance this morning. We're at the time for the morning break. I know staff needs a break, so we'll break for 10 minutes. We'll reconvene at 20 to 11. Please be patient, everyone. Thank you.
Around every corner and under every corner, the city has assets, infrastructure that quietly adds convenience to our day-to-day living. From the pipes that carry our water and wastewater, to the roads that we walk, cycle, and drive on, to the amazing parks facilities that keep us active. We depend on this infrastructure without really thinking about its upkeep. That is, until something goes wrong. In April 2020, the water main that runs beneath Bowen Road broke and burst in a big way.
I don't think there's anything we depend upon in this community more than our water supply. We have dams, we have a reservoir, we have a water treatment plant, we have big water trunk mains and distribution mains, fire hydrants, and all kinds of other pieces of infrastructure totaling $1.5 billion that all bring water to our 100,000 residents. We have to be really careful to plan and make sure that that system is robust and resilient so that nobody's ever without water.
The water main on Bowen Road was quickly repaired, and recognizing that the entire water main was at risk, a plan was quickly moved forward to replace it with the Midtown water supply, a new seismically safe water main built for future growth and expected to last for nearly a century. A parallel and backup water main has also been installed and can be used whenever the main line needs repairs.
When we plan to replace our assets, our underground infrastructure, our facilities, all of those sorts of things, we want to make sure we're future-proof as possible. We're really looking out for the long-term best interest of the community. And so we want to make sure that the infrastructure is resilient, it's hardened, and it has sufficient capacity for growth, for unpredictable events such as earthquakes or wildfires. And we want to make sure that we're protecting the environment as much as possible.
Making smart, modern improvements and focusing on sustainability applies to all of the city's asset management planning, regardless of a project's scale.
As our infrastructure ages and it becomes time to replace it, because that's really part of the asset management life cycle, we always strive to replace with newer technology, more effective, more efficient fixtures, or even enhancing and taking advantage of newer technology. So a few examples would be LED streetlights, replacing the old high-pressure sodium, very environmentally invasive, with LED, much more focused and much less cost of electricity. Another example would be the boilers in our pools. We're getting away from the intensive GHG gas boilers and shifting more and more to electric, and still using the old ones as backup. Another great example that we like to point to, it's been really relatively under the radar for the last 10 years, is at our #1 reservoir, we actually, as we fill the reservoir, generate electricity and sell that back to the grid to the tune of about $100,000 a year.
Even with the city's best planning, the unpredictable can happen, such as the water main break on Bowen Road. Planning for the unexpected is one more reason why the city maintains an asset management fund. With $4.8 billion in infrastructure, planning and budgeting for the future is crucial to keep Nanaimo healthy.
So a huge part of planning ahead involves determining how much money is needed to fund the replacement of assets, and the city uses long-term planning to do that.
The city has 3 asset management funds that help with long-term infrastructure planning. One for water, one for sewer, and a general asset management fund.
So the contributions to the 3 asset management reserve funds help to smooth out the impact on property taxes and user fee increases when replacement is needed.
You know, for the last 10 or 12 years, Nanaimo's council has been really supportive in annual contributions and increasing approximately 1% of taxes every year dedicated to asset management to ensure that our funding to replace our old assets remains sustainable.
As Nanaimo is one of the fastest growing cities in BC, the demand on our infrastructure is growing right along with it. This makes long-term planning more important now than ever.
Without that contribution to asset management reserves, we wouldn't be able to ensure that the services Nanaimo continues to rely on and appreciate and enjoy would be able to be sustained.
Starting up a short-term rental in the city of Nanaimo? From marketing to pricing to your business platform, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. One piece that you won't want to miss is your short-term rental business license. Puzzled? We're here to help. A short-term rental is the rental of a living space for a period of less than 30 days back to back. By following the guidelines of the Short-Term Rental Operators Guidebook, short-term rental operators may qualify for a business license without hurting the long-term rental market in Nanaimo. It's also about being a great neighbor. By getting a short-term rental business license, it's like saying, hey, I promise that my guests will have a dedicated space to park in and that they won't be too noisy. This is, after all, a very respectable establishment. To learn more about the City of Nanaimo's short-term rental guidelines, or if you need a hand getting started with your business license application, connect with us. We're here to help.
Terminal Avenue is the gateway to downtown Nanaimo, and whether you're arriving from the north or the south, it's the first impression of Nanaimo's downtown. While the first impression isn't anything to celebrate yet, positive change is underway, growing from the efforts of grassroots organizations and the vision of Nanaimo's community. A better Terminal Avenue gateway is being created. In the early coal mining days, Terminal Avenue wasn't a roadway. In fact, it wasn't even land. It was a tidal inlet and regularly filled with ocean water. Throughout the coal mining days, the inlet was a depository for coal mining tailings. As time passed, the inlet vanished and new land formed. Through the 20th century, Nanaimo continued to grow, and along with it, the city's transportation needs. The corridor of new land became Terminal Avenue and a part of the Trans-Canada Highway, routing travelers through the heart of Nanaimo's downtown. Over time, more and more people came, more cars filled the streets, and we ended up with a highway-oriented Terminal Avenue that we see today. With the creation of the Nanaimo Parkway in the 1990s, a highway that bypassed the city, Terminal Avenue no longer needed to be just an auto-oriented streetscape meant to move cars quickly through the city, and new potential for the area came to light. In 2016, the Downtown Nanaimo Business Improvement Association, together with the city and the Ministry of Transportation, undertook Terminal Nickel Reimagined, a process that invited the community to help create a toolbox of ideas to improve the streetscape. Now those tools are being put to work, and that work began beneath the Bastion Street Bridge when it was given seismic upgrades. New art integrates with the bridge supports and adds a moment of color to the streetscape. Another step comes with the construction of a beautified streetscape and park spaces along Terminal Avenue between Esplanade and Commercial Street. Following that, a big stride forward will come with a new downtown transit exchange on Terminal Avenue, which will expand multimodal connectivity in the heart of downtown. And we're poised for a giant leap when Terminal Avenue streetscape upgrades are extended through downtown all the way to Stewart Avenue. Back in 2015, residents were asked to share their greatest fear for the future of Terminal Avenue. That fear? Nothing will change, and the challenge of achieving an active and attractive gateway to Nanaimo is insurmountable. Those fears were heard, and the challenge accepted. Today, we're reimagining Terminal Avenue as a walkable, green, and beautiful downtown street.
And I'm Wish Cycling.
Wish, I have to say, I'm really loving your t-shirt.
Well, I do love recycling.
Stop it, you're gonna make me blush.
Absolutely. Wait, no, not you recycling. I heart recycling. I like you, but I love the act of recycling. I put everything in the blue cart.
I don't know if you understand the blue cart completely. Have you ever heard of contamination?
Oh yeah, that's when your Brussels sprouts touch your mashed potatoes.
No, that's brumotactilophobia.
You lost me.
Recycling contamination happens when things that can't be recycled end up in your blue cart.
Oh, like Brussels sprouts.
No, I'm talking about recyclables, like packing foam or glass or soft plastics. Things that can't be sorted at the depot. If these things end up in the truck on pickup day, then it contaminates the whole load, and then the whole load is trash.
Oh, I don't heart trash.
Exactly. That's what wish cycling actually is. It's putting something in your blue cart and then just expecting that someone's there on the other end to sort it. The truth is, our sorting process doesn't allow for wish cycling.
What was that?
Sounds like the machine's grinding to a halt at the recycling depot. If soft plastics get into the sorting belts, then the entire process comes to a halt.
Soft plastics can do that?
Sure can. That's why your blue card is only for packaging and paper products.
Oh, I see. PPP.
Exactly. Huh. You still love recycling?
I sure do. I heart recycling.
That's my name.
This is a City of Nanaimo storm drain. This is also a City of Nanaimo storm drain. The only thing that goes in this is rainwater. Anything other than rainwater ends up into the ocean, which ultimately affects the marine life. There's many different styles of catch basins. These are just two, but they both collect rainwater. One has a fish stamped on it. That's telling me that it's unprocessed and it goes directly to an environmentally sensitive area. This is the outfall, so anything that you put in that catch basin is ultimately going to end up into the ocean. If you have any questions about where to take your unwanted wasted products, such as paint products and petroleum products, you can contact the City of Nanaimo at 758-5222. You can also go onto our website. You can also download the Nanaimo Recycles app. Please do not throw material down the catch basins.
If the intersection at Terminal Avenue and Commercial Street is the front door to Nanaimo, then unfortunately, its front yard needs a bit of work. It's currently the site of a big empty hole. The historic block of buildings at 6 Commercial Street first began with an auto store in the early 1900s, followed by expansions that included the Heritage Gene Burns shop in 1955. For the next 62 years, The buildings anchored the corner and housed a range of businesses, eateries, and studio spaces that were home to local artists. But on March 30, 2016, disaster struck. A massive fire ripped through part of the block, and while there were thankfully no injuries, the buildings were unrecoverable. In 2017, they were demolished, leaving a hole in this prominent corner.
The next delegation is Trish Briggs. Ms. Briggs, good morning. If you can introduce yourself for the record, 5 minutes. I'll let you know when there's a minute left.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good morning. My name is Trish Briggs. I have had the privilege of working at 55 Victoria Road for the past 25 years, currently at the True Beginnings Clinic. I'm here today to advocate for the continued funding of the hub, and just as importantly, for it to remain in its current location. Over the years, I've witnessed countless stories of recovery, resilience, and hope because of the services provided right there. I've seen people come through these doors at their lowest points, but with the right support, begin to rebuild their lives. Today, I'd also like to address some of the concerns and misconceptions that have been raised and explain why moving the hub would ultimately do more harm than good to the very people that we are trying to support. The current location of the hub is critical because it allows individuals to access multiple essential services within the same area. Medical care through the True Beginnings Clinic, the ARC Clinic, AVI, and services from Outreach Pharmacy are all closely connected and located within a short distance in the same building as one another. This proximity matters. For individuals experiencing homelessness or living with addiction, even small obstacles such as longer travel distances can prevent them from accessing the care that they need. Keeping the hub where it is ensures continuity, consistency, and how our services are delivered. The attendance of the patients that receive care from the doctors has been far more consistent since the hub has been operating. Therefore, the patients are receiving continuation of care and not missing their doctor's appointments, which they need. It's also important to understand that moving the hub does not eliminate the presence of this population. It simply shifts the issue to another area. The individuals who rely on these services will continue to be where the services they need are located. Relocating the hub would only create a new problem in a different neighborhood, while fragmenting care and increasing confusion for the people who already struggle with stability. Concentrating services in one area allows for better coordination, monitoring, and support for both clients and clinics. Rather than relocating the hub, there are practical improvements we can make to enhance accessibility and reduce strain. One potential solution would be adding stairs from Nickel Street, where the hub is located, to 55 Victoria Road, where many of these services are accessed. This would improve the movement between the location and help manage foot traffic more effectively. In previous discussions, there have been broad generalizations made about addiction treatment programs contributing to overprescribing or diversion. I strongly disagree with these assumptions. The clinics, pharmacy, and community organizations working alongside with the hub are committed to accountability and collaboration. The challenges surrounding substance use are complex, and they are not caused by programs like this one. In fact, programs like the hub are part of the solution. On a personal level, after 25 years in this building, I can say without hesitation that these services change lives. I've seen individuals who were once homeless or deeply struggling with addictions stabilize, access treatment, connect with community supports, and rebuild relationships with their families. These aren't statistics, they're real people. members of our community whose lives have been improved because these services are coordinated and accessible in one place. In closing, I urge Council to agree with continuing to fund the hub and keep it in its current location. Moving the hub would not solve the challenges we're discussing today. It would simply relocate them while making care less effective and harder to access. Let's continue to support those who are working hard to rebuild their lives. Let's keep the hub where it's needed most. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any questions, but I'm going to ask myself. You say keep it in the current location. Or is it more of an argument to keep the similar services in a similar location? Why is that location in particular?
I feel like the hub has really helped our clientele, our patients, maintain getting to their appointments, seeking the services they need. I will make an appointment with somebody to possibly fill out treatment application papers or something. Well, when they didn't have somewhere nearby to be and to be safe and to be warm, they would miss that appointment. I'm just finding that them showing up for what they need to show up for has been better with the hub there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Himmons and Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your presentation and your work. You spoke of practical improvements, and you spoke specifically of moving the stairwell. My understanding is that's been explored for a number of months, and there's a number of issues for why that wouldn't work. Are there any other practical improvements you could offer for the time remaining that the hub is open? Or is it the access? Yeah. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just
and I'm not even really sure how to answer that. I see them on Nickel Street too, right? And for them to be able to come up a set of stairs to access the services just seems so much more practical. Of course, obviously it's not that easy to do, but.
Yeah, I think we've been having that conversation for a while, and I just want to make sure you understand that Council is not contemplating extension of the hub services. We have pulled funding as of March 31st.
Right.
Okay. And finally, Your Worship, and I think I want to say this writ large to the delegations this morning, I think everyone at this table really appreciates the nuance of services that make sense, services that matter to community, and challenges outside of where those services are provided, that those two realities can exist. I just want to surface that. Thank you. Thanks for your work.
Thank you.
And we're all guilty of it, but I'll remind Council this morning, it's questions to the delegation. All of us are making statements and comments, and I'm noting it's 10 to 11, and we have 11 more delegations. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. You spoke to keeping services in one name, not dispersing, whereas the motto of this council is to disperse. Can you speak to the difference, please?
Sorry?
You spoke to keeping services in one area and not to have dispersal around, whereas the rule of, or the will of this council is to disperse throughout the community. Can you speak to that?
Well, I just feel like having everybody in one area, I know it seems chaotic at times. I understand that for the neighborhood, but I do believe that putting it all in different areas, I mean, for the most part, this population is going to stay in the area that it's in regardless. You can move and put something somewhere else. They may not even access it because they don't have the means to get there. They are accessing the clinics and the pharmacy and the Salvation Army, all the things in the area. Better managing that. I mean, in our building, we have the pharmacy there that is very good at, all of the staff there at trying to, disperse large groups of people, move people along. There's a woman that comes into work cleaning up outside. Like the clinics, we go outside, we make sure everything's, people aren't in large groups, break them up. Like we're all trying to do our part as best as we can. The hub is helping with that because they do have that as a place to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. The next delegation is Violet Hayes, Executive Director, Island Crisis Care Society. Ms. Hayes, not your first time before council, so I think you know the drill. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here, and thank you for listening to us. As mentioned, I'm Violet Hayes, the Executive Director with Island Crisis Care Society, and I'm here today to talk about the future of the drop-in hub and the future well-being of hundreds of people in our community. As you know, on July 16th, the committee approved the continuation of funding for this portion up to the end of March, and I would like to ask that you consider extending that just a little bit longer. We've had this team that's been working so hard on trying to find locations. We've looked at 20 plus places. We've even found a location that we could use if we had money for renovations. But at this point, we just struck zero. And it leaves us with a devastating reality. If no suitable location is found soon, funding for the hub ends and the hub will close. So what does that mean for our community? It's not a standalone service. The connections that have been built through the hub are just astounding. As mentioned, we have the outreach pharmacy upstairs. We have mental health and addiction supports coming in. We have BC Housing Outreach, complex care housing supports, medical teams, cultural from the nation coming, the outreach teams. And to think that it might just all end on March 31st is just, it's scary. It will simply leave people in a worse condition because they've built trust with us now. And we're seeing so many success stories of people now moving into housing. It's unfortunate. I think we would have seen success a whole lot sooner if we had had the hearth sites opened, you know, as they were supposed to be. But now they are open, and now we are starting to see people moving into housing. And as was mentioned, 21 people have been successful in finding housing, and we are averaging 2,647 visits a month, and that's over 31,700 visits this year. We're serving about 114,000 meals and food items, providing clothing, hygiene supplies, harm reduction supplies, and daily connection. And I want to just really pinpoint that daily connection is so important. It's become a place where families are reconnecting with loved ones. I've heard stories about, you know, mum and a son getting together and finally having a place where they can sit down and reconnect because the street is just so chaotic. But now they have a place where primary care teams are coming regularly for wound care, and they can now do that care inside instead of on the streets. Doctors and nurses can find clients for monthly mental health injections, and so they're able to be more successful. And housing workers can successfully reach people who were previously lost between the system. So really, the hub is a life-stabilizing force. It meets people where they already are, and it does so effectively, compassionately, and safely. So closing the hub will not end homelessness, we all know that, and I know that you guys care as much as we do about our community. It will not resolve substance use or mental health, and it will not relieve neighborhood distress. In fact, I think it will increase suffering, both for the people losing the service and for the surrounding neighborhood. And I agree with what the South End Association is saying. I mean, we care as well, and I know they do. And what they are experiencing should not be anyone's reality. And we recognize the challenges of the building.
1 minute.
And so I would just really say a couple of things to end. One is when we met with people with lived experience and those on the streets a couple of years ago through the CAB, we asked them what the number one thing they wanted was. For the Reaching Home funds, we were looking at that. What was the number one thing they wanted? And it was a place to come in the daytime. And that's what we've been able to provide. So I would really urge you to reconsider. We will continue looking, and I mean, if we can find capital, we could have another place now. but please don't close it. I mean, I'm just, for the sake of the people, I know that the lead has talked about putting, there's a couple of things around the stairs on the outside he's now looking at. Could that happen? And the reason we couldn't do, maybe someone will ask me this question because I'm probably running out of time, the reason about the door onto Victoria. So I will end there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons.
Could you please tell me about the door onto Victoria?
Thank you, Erin. Yes, I'd be happy to tell you. So we were going to start, we had a 1-month trial set up. We had arranged that we were going to bring in an extra staff person so we could have someone at that door and start moving people through that way. And I don't know who, but some concerned citizen reported us to WorkSafe BC. And so when WorkSafe BC came and they heard about what we were planning to do, we got an order against us about that because of asbestos, possible asbestos in the building. So then it meant that we would have to pay for all the asbestos testing and everything in order to even try it for 1 month to see if it improved things. So that's why that stopped. But we did previously look at the outside stairs, and I believe that the owner of the building is now, looking at could that happen. There used to be stairs there at one point, and so it would just be replacing them so that we could, have access through the parking lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. In order, Councillor Prino, then Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thank you for, a question through you. Thank you for being here, Ms. Hayes, and I can't even ever imagine you ever being far from this issue, so thank you for all the work that you do. I'm just wondering, you did talk at the beginning about a possible place. If I maybe heard you incorrectly, and I realize you probably can't give the details, but is it close to the same area?
No, not at all. In fact, it's close to where I live.
Okay, good to know. Are you working on that then? Is that a possibility?
No, because we don't have capital money. It would need so much. We'd have to put the washrooms in and the different things, and without capital, we simply can't do it.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thanks, Ms. Hayes, for all the work that you do and the presentation. Just a question on the capital that would be required for renovations of this potential site. Are there rough estimates of what that would be, and is it a number that has been presented to BC Housing or even to council? Is it in a place that could? Because I think that, I personally would be very interested to know, if there was an opportunity and a location where that required renovations, what that cost would be to contemplate, what the city could leverage to bring other people to the table.
Yeah, we haven't done any detail looking at it because we had talked to BC Housing and heard that no, they don't have capital. So yeah, we haven't gone any further.
Mm-hmm. So it'd be a magnitude of millions for the renovation, do you think, or?
I have no idea.
Hard to say. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's something that we yeah. Well, I'll raise this after.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, the issue is all these things take time, right? And that's the challenge. We've now got 3 months, so we could do something if we thought we had the funding, but I mean, yeah, everything takes time.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any further questions. Appreciated. The next delegation is Donna Marie Dunnigan. Ms. Dunnigan, good morning. Welcome. If you can give us your introduction in 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when there's a minute left. Thank you.
Well, thank you. This is the first time people see me without a hat, so. I just want to say thank you so much for having me here, Mayor and Council. First, I want to say I do outreach over at the drop-in. I've been doing outreach for over 30 years now, started in the downtown east side, and I just feel really blessed that I'm able to do the work that I do at the hub. And it's really difficult to try to have everyone capture what it's like when we first open the doors in the morning. And the sense of community that we have that come into the hub, and how long it takes when you first open a place for people to come in and actually feel that they can trust the environment that they're walking into. Because we still represent a system to them, and it takes time to build that sense of community. I feel blessed that you're all here looking at me directly in the eyes, and they don't get that. They're not very often heard, most often judged. We know that. I feel also really blessed that those who've come today from the Hub to share their experiences, and those who aren't speaking today are sitting in the audience in support of the Hub, and that's where we've all built community. We acknowledge people when we see them by their first names. We support people who come in that are deregulated, hungry, alone, and cold. One of the biggest blessings when I'm working at the Hub is knowing that someone can lay their head down for a short time safely without worrying about being assaulted or hurt. Gratitude for those who could bring what little belongings they have into the Hub. But I also want to speak about, we run the clean team, and we do it on Fridays. And I take 2 guests who volunteer their time. One is here today. We go out for an hour, and we have our cart, and we have our vests, and we proudly clean up community. It's something that they want to do. They take initiative in it. They're proud to do it. They often say how much it means to them to give back to community. Those are the small little miracles that we see happen. I know there's much more that needs to be done. They live in the gaps, and we work in them, and we're doing the best we can. Community is building, though. We feel it when we're in. I wish you could come into the Hub and just experience what I get to every day. And for those who are in psychosis or deregulated, we work with them to support them. And there are some who come into the drop-in who aren't accepted anywhere else. But they come into the drop-in, and most times it's successful. And I also want to share a story about this gentleman who took initiative. He asked us for a broom and a dustpan, and for the last 3 weeks, he's been cleaning the streets of Victoria and Nickel Street every day. And he said how much that gives him a sense of purpose, and that now he has the desire to get clean because he feels good about doing something. He said to me, "You don't even know how good this feels for me. Like, this feels really good for me." And I want people to know that. So that's just something I want to share. I know you've heard a lot today, so my whole purpose is just to bring a little bit of joy to everybody, just to share that we can't paint everybody with the same brush. We know that everyone has a story. Not everyone that accesses the Hub has substance issues. Well, the world, we all struggle with mental health, I'm sure. We all have our stories. Single parents come in, grab some food, because it's where they can eat so their kids can. These are stories you don't hear. There's safe places that they can come into. And I just wanted to share that today.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any questions. Appreciate the work you do and the compassion you demonstrate.
Cheers.
The next delegation is Ryan Webster.
Your Worship, my apologies. I just found out during the break that Ryan Webster and Greg Clausen won't be here today.
Ryan Webster and Greg Clausen, all right. The next then will be Diana McIver, sorry. Ms. McIver, good morning. If you can introduce yourself for the record, 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when there's a minute left. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'm Diana McIver, and I'm part of the Hub. I'm also part of the clean team. I'm a registered Métis. I also work with the peer support with them. I do a lot of talking with a lot of people that do come in there and see help. And I also help the people that work in the Hub, volunteering my time, giving my time, and being a friend, and telling my story. I've been through a lot. I've been banned from the shelters. I got myself clean without services for 3 months. I was being used, drugged on top of my drug use without people knowing that. I have no memory of a lot of things that had happened to me over the winter and spring, just this winter and spring. And I got myself off the ban list and got myself back in the shelter at the Hub. I'm grateful for the Hub. A lot of people are. At the same time, it's hateful, it's dreading especially for nighttime. And you don't understand an addict until you know, and you have to understand addiction. And when you go to detox, you need to go to treatment right away. Going to detox and getting out, you're just gonna go use again, because you're just still waiting to go into treatment. There needs to be something there that you go from here to there, if that's what you're wanting right now at that moment. I went to detox twice. I did that, I relapsed. So for all those out there, they want to get clean, and when they're serious about it, they mean it, and they want to get in like now, and there's no services for now. It's showing that you want to. They make the phone calls, they do it, they go, they get out, and then they're trying to stay clean, and it's hard to stay clean. But having all those services there, like they have said, also does help for making us to go to our appointments, making sure we get our medications. It's all there for us. I've had an egg thrown on the back of my head, which I thought it was a big rock. Like, you know, it's not cool out there, and being told every day, just die already, all of you die, you know, and this is entertainment, and they videotape this, and they think it's funny. There's nothing funny about it. There's nothing funny about being homeless. The ground was mine. I stayed across from Flames Restaurant, and I didn't know I was in front of the parole office underneath a camera. And I used my foot to clean the spot so I can lay down with a thin blanket. I did things that I don't remember doing, but the other things I do remember. I expressed things other people have lied about what I've said. I do remember what I said. At that time, I was not under the influence at that time. I was being told this, told that, go here, go there. Once my name was brought up, yeah, no, you're out. Getting told no, and being left out alone, all by myself. Learning how to live on the street is hard. And mental health. I was also diagnosed with drug-induced psychosis. My children were taken away from me because of people who loved to hate me because I was a parent. They were a friend to their children. I wasn't, in a low-income housing. My children were taken, and that led to my substance abuse. And then it led me into where I got in there, intensive care, or the level for being diagnosed with induced psychosis.
And 1 more minute.
And the parents that came there to see their children that do have mental health, hear voices and everything else, said, "You do not belong here." I said, "Thank you." I was being forced to stay there. I did 30 days intensive care, and I did not belong there. I visited a guy every day that was locked in the room, never got to come out. The rest of us did. He was not really being fed. He was only bathed once while I was there in the 30 days. The hospital does not do anything. They even dumped me off on a wheelchair. They even do it to other people and the police. I was assaulted a lot with the police and hospital. But the hub is a safe place for me and the people there. We get into arguments, we're human, you know, so I don't know what else to say, but the hub has saved me.
If you could wrap up, please, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all.
Councillor Perino has a question, if she may, please.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for saying what you've been saying. It's helpful for us to understand what you've been going through. I'm just wondering, the particular discussion that you've had where you said you had someone throw an egg at you and that, was that on Nickel Street or Victoria Street? Where are you seeing the worst?
On the highway, videotaping it. A person in the back of the seat of the car videotaping it. And they post it on Facebook. They edit pictures. I was also on top of where the fountain was and had a ball and pushed down my face. I phoned my brother just to say hello and I love him. I started putting time on my phone. Without a phone for 2 years. And he goes, "You were posted on Facebook naked." They edited it and made it look like I was naked.
Yeah.
I said, no, I was clothed.
Yeah.
Which I was. And then I was arrested for apparently drinking in a public place, which I was not drinking. I came from Wendy's and had a drink of the pink lemonade there. But yeah, getting hit in the head just recently, but
Okay.
within the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
But other people I witnessed, apples.
Yeah. We've heard of some of this too, yeah.
It's
That's why I
awful.
was
But
wondering
they're
where it was.
videotaping it
Yeah.
and putting it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And they also edit things and make things. There's also even a lady here who doesn't use and gets criticized for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Susan Leon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe has a question, please.
I do. Thank you, Your Worship, through you, if I may, to Ms. MacGyver. Thank you very much for having the courage to come and speak to us today. Appreciate hearing your perspective. It's very valuable. My question is this, and I just wanted you to confirm for me something that I thought I heard you say, which I think is significant. You stated that you felt that there is a lack of services or supports for those wanting to get clean. Would you say that is correct?
Yes, very much so.
Thank you.
When they want it, they need it now. It needs to be from here to there right away. Like, as soon as you're out, you're going to here. It's not a gap of your freedom, because that's where you're going to start to relapse.
I think that's really important and significant for us to hear. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. The next then will be Kevin Williams. Mr. Williams, you've probably heard me explain the drill. Please, if you could, thank you.
Good morning, Council, Mayor. My name is Kevin Williams. I came to Nanaimo about 30 years ago. I've raised 4 children here to adulthood, and they've moved on. I worked as a logger, nurse practitioner, LPN, peer support worker, truck driver, worked in the oil patch all my life. Due to a major injury, I broke my back and my neck, and just before that had happened, I had lost one of my children. And right after my daughter's funeral, I lost 7 family members within the next month, and found myself on the streets and coming to Nanaimo to have one of my legs amputated. And if it wasn't for places like the Hub and the staff, I raised havoc in this community, and I was broken, I was beat down, I was lost. I'm a grandfather, I'm a father, I'm an uncle, I'm a great-grandpa. I'm a human being, and I came to this town, and I'll tell you, you'd be homeless out there and an addict. And I didn't have a choice of being an addict, because after my hospital visits and a broken neck and a broken back and getting my leg amputated, supposed to get my leg cut off, I was put back on opiates, and I became opiate dependent. Well, you miss your appointments because there's nowhere to go, like the Hub, to meet your criteria of reporting every time you need to take a pill to stop your pain. I also suffer from mental and emotional disorders. I've had brain surgery. I've got steel plates in my head, my jaw, from being smashed out on these streets. I've been stabbed. I've had explosive devices thrown at me on Nickel Street that dropped me unconscious from cars passing by. You know, get off our streets. You know, it's horrible. And I have to admit, I played a part in fighting against the people that are against the homeless, and it cost me a lot. But because of the Hub, and if that place is to close, you can forget about having Nanaimo as our tourist attraction place, because you'll have 300-400 homeless people that have mental, emotional, and drug addiction in your downtown core. They will be in your faces, in your storefronts. They'll be everywhere, and it will plague this community, and we don't need that. I raised 4 beautiful children in this town, and they all graduated with honors. I don't have one child that's a drug addict or an alcoholic or nothing, and they never seen me drink. I was clean for 21 years before I came back here, and when I came back here, that all changed after I lost my daughter and my family, and without the Hub and the staff that are there, this guy wouldn't be alive today. And, you know, I just asked the mayor and council, like, have a consideration of keeping this place open. And because I'm one of them success stories. I went into the hub. I got people in there that are my friends that work there. And they weren't my friends at first. They were my enemy because they are cultured and they, you know, they have rules. And when you're on the street, you abide by no rules. You abide by survival. And it is survival of the fittest and the meanest out there, and it's awful. And okay, and I just say, you know, I got to really thank the staff and the hub for what they did for me. I'm homed. I have, you know, I get employment every winter. I work as a peer support worker in the cold winter shelters. I've pretty much got my drug addiction beat. I don't drink, and that was a big problem of mine. And I get very violent when I drink, and I don't touch alcohol. And you know, I owe that to the hub and them guys getting me off the street, away from this downtown core and the drug-infested addiction problem that we are facing in our community today. I'm out of there. I got a home. I got a place to say it's mine, and I owe them. So I thank you, Mayor, Council, for having me share today.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any questions. Appreciate what you had to say.
Thank you.
The next is Alexander Marbach, ARC Addiction and Recovery Clinic. Mr. Marbach, you probably have heard the drill this morning. Welcome. You can just introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Alex Marbach. I'm the manager of ARC Addictions and Recovery Clinic. I'm just here to say a few words of support on what we've seen in the community with the hub. So ARC Addictions and Recovery Clinic is an outpatient addiction clinic located at 55 Victoria Road, which shares the same building as the hub. We provide opiate agonist therapy, which is referred to as OAT, methadone, Cadian, Suboxone, and Sublocade for patients using illicit opiates, of which there are some using the hub services. Opiate agonist therapy is an evidence-based treatment for opiate use disorder. While there's much to say on the benefits, there are some basics. At therapeutic levels, it is proven to reduce opiate overdose deaths, reduce all-cause mortality in unhoused opiate users, and provide stability in the high withdrawal cycle to allow for insight and change into drug-seeking behavior. Due to the combination of the highly potent opiates and prescribing guidelines for doctors, therapeutic levels of OAT can take up to 2 weeks before patients see much benefit. The hub shelter provides day and nighttime shelter space, allowing unhoused people to get out of the weather, eat a decent meal, and connect with service providers, including pharmacies, social support teams, and medical practitioners. The proximity of the shelter to the majority of OAT providers in Nanaimo has provided significant benefit to individuals with access to care and OAT. Clients that have been unhoused in the area for years and have struggled to maintain an OAT program to therapeutic levels have been able to stay on, see the benefit of the program, and maintain their recovery. Evidence also suggests that long-term retention of opiate agonist therapy is positively linked with reduced criminal charges in individuals. Every opiate user initiated on an OAT program is a chance to promote stability and improve both individual health outcomes and community safety. The hub provides accessibility to the nearby clinics, and with walk-in availability, clients using the hub have successfully initiated or reinitiated an OAT program at clinics. At our clinic, we are often referring to detox and treatment or advocating for other medical care. In the last few weeks, patients desperate to get into treatment are met with few weeks to a few months of wait list. The hub has allowed patients some stability while they are on the wait list for their detox and treatment, keeping them connected with their programs and their doctor. Many of the homeless clients also have untreated chronic or complex medical concerns, and with a convenient point of access at the hub, patients are able to be assessed and treated by a doctor. Healthcare in BC in general is undergoing significant issues with staffing, services, and funding in most aspects. Opiate overdose-related hospitalizations have increased. They're causing strain on a system already overburdened, and Nanaimo has had the single largest increase of any BC community in overdose ambulance calls in the last year. This highlights the need for mitigating measures. Any measure which improves retention in an OAT program alleviates strain from our medical system in general and from Nanaimo specifically. Housing is one of the 4 pillars of addiction recovery care. It's health, housing, purpose, and community. The 4 pillars are equally vital to recovery and can positively reinforce or be a detriment to the other pillars. As a clinic, our primary purpose is to support the health aspect of recovery, and we rely on working with community partners such as the Hub to connect people to housing and community. While the shelter is not housing, the Hub is connecting people with service providers and coordinators, which is finding people long-term housing solutions. Among our patients who have been on the streets for years, they have gained housing through connecting with the Hub. And housing is also a significant predictor of OAT retention amongst the other obvious benefits. The Hub also provides an opportunity for community buy-in from the clients using its service. Through its operation, clients of the shelter have been observed trying to aid staff in mitigating the congregations and other social disorder around the area. A sense of community is a measurable predictor of substance use remission, as feeling part of community leads to hope, which in turn is required to enter into recovery. From our perspective, as an outpatient addiction clinic, the shelter provides integral support in aiding connection and maintenance with an OAT program, providers, healthcare, and other social programs. We hope that this vital function is continued in conjunction with other community safety measures and social disorder mitigating policies so the community at large may see meaningful benefit.
Thank you very much. Any questions to the delegation? Not seeing any. Appreciate you taking your time this morning.
Thank you.
The next delegation is Naomi Woodland, Director, Community Impact and Investment, United Way of BC. Good morning, Ms. Woodland. You know the drill. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me here today. I am the Director of Housing Initiatives for United Way BC, and United Way is the community entity for Reaching Home funding in the city of Nanaimo and Nanaimo First Nation. I want to say that I prepared some slides to speak today, but in all transparency, they were prepared a little hastily, and there may be a couple of errors on them, so just giving you a heads up. And I also know that it isn't lost on this council the urgency and need of the housing and affordability crisis impacting communities across BC. And you may already know some of these data points, but I just want to reiterate that since 2020, the number of people sleeping unsheltered across Canada has increased by 107%, and that number for Indigenous people has been maintained around 35 to 40%, depending on the community. As we've heard today, and I've heard many times before, the City of Nanaimo has gone above and beyond in working tirelessly over the last few years to be part of the solution for homelessness. Community engagement, education and awareness, and adjusting community safety approaches are all areas where it is evident that this council and community cares. We also know that this issue is continuing to grow. From a funder and community partner perspective, I would urge Council to reconsider ending funding for the drop-in hub on March 31st, 2026, as it is a key piece of infrastructure in the city of Nanaimo, again, as we've heard from many people. As Ms. Wood mentioned earlier, the enumeration count for Nanaimo has indicated that the number of people who are living unsheltered or who are living unhoused or in shelters remains around 620 people. And we've heard a number of times the data of the number of people using the drop-in hub daily. The error on this slide is that there is way more than 116 temporary supportive housing beds. It's closer to 200, it's 225. And so the implementation of Heart and Hearth has been absolutely incredible to reduce the visible homelessness in Nanaimo. So I thank you for your continued advocacy to bring such critical units to Nanaimo. I would say that now is the time to lean into this incredible support being created. Reaching Home delivers $1.9 million of funding into Nanaimo every year. Access to basic needs and client support services is a large part of that investment. It forms our investment strategy, which we've heard from lived experience members, community partners and others as to how we prioritize that investment. And together with the city funding, we are connecting hundreds of people to supports, healthcare and housing. The drop-in hub is a starting point for people to access those other funded services from Reaching Home. So it plays an important role in helping to triage those people to other prevention and shelter diversion supports, client and treatment services, as well as housing services. I am privileged and honoured in my role to work with incredible partners in many communities across BC. The community engagement and partnerships in Nanaimo work well in bringing key interest holders together, such as through neighbourhood associations, business meetings and provider meetings. I've seen many similar examples also bring the interest holders together for neighbourhood forums, where the main goal is to provide a space to share concerns, identify issues and work on solutions collaboratively. This approach has helped equip people with tools and resources to be part of the solution to such complex issues. This slide is from a slide we presented to Council in Penticton, but I wanted to demonstrate that a couple of things that have also been mentioned here. So we have City Clean team hours. Oops. What happened there? So we worked with providers to deliver additional clean hours. We also had community cleanups, which are led by people with lived and living experience. And we hosted 5 neighbourhood forums. As a united way, we hosted those neighbourhood forums to work collaboratively with neighbours to identify solutions and mitigate issues as they came up. And that was in partnership with emergency services, the city, as well as existing neighbourhood associations. So I just wanted to share that as some of the ways that other communities are also addressing the same issue. As was mentioned earlier, the Alignment Project is coming to Nanaimo, which will bring federal, provincial and local funders together with community social service providers to strategically create a sophisticated governance and project management system together, so that we can hold each other accountable for ensuring that the work is done in a good way within the community. We'll share more about this in January, but the groups at the bottom of the slide there is what Ms. Wood referred to earlier, and we're going to add one for the Nanaimo Hub Relocation Committee. And my last closing, I'll say, in essence, now is not the time to cut this service. We have heard from so many people today that it is a lifeline for those experiencing homelessness, and I believe there are opportunities to expand community, neighbourhood partnerships and support that is currently a critical and challenging part of the current approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any Councillor Eastmere, please.
Thank you for the information. If you could send us a copy of your presentation. There was some good slides there and a little bit too quick, but thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Not seeing any further questions. Thanks for coming this morning. Appreciate it. And the next delegation is Gail Murray. Sorry, I skipped Sydney. Sorry, Gail. Sydney gets first dibs. I swiggled one line too far. Ms. Robertson, good morning. You know the drill. Nice to see you again.
Good morning. Nice to see all of you. I want to first recognize that it's possible that I may not be needing to speak to council so much, but because of the discussion and the topic here today, I take every opportunity I can to speak to all the agencies, all the entities, people from the province beyond this room. So here I am. I'm here today to speak for the South End Community Association, and I'd just like to start by noting what we often do in our meetings, that we're not the South End Homeowners Association, we're the South End Community Association. And my community includes people with, the entire variety of issues that human beings have, and that includes my neighbors who are unhoused. They're part of our community. I need to also say that, like a raft, a community can't float when the load is too heavy, and that's what we're experiencing in the South End. Even before the hub opened, many of you know that we were feeling the weight of the social burden that our neighborhood is carrying for our city. A year ago, last December, we were invited to a meeting and we were told about the hub opening. At that time, the people who spoke to us were hoping that opening the hub would take the issues that the behaviors we were having trouble with on the Victoria Road sidewalk, that those would be brought inside and that the feeling for the neighborhood would actually be better. I said then that I hoped they were right, but I was concerned that they might not be, and I wondered what the backup plan was if that didn't actually happen. There was silence in the room, and I said, no guys, really, what's the plan? And then I acknowledged that there was no plan at that time. I asked for another meeting, and we had a meeting several months later. There still was no plan. 1 second, sorry. We've heard from city staff and from agencies the things that they've tried to mitigate the impact on the neighborhood, and we're grateful for every piece that has been tried, and we know that a lot of that has come at considerable expense to the city. We appreciate all of that. What we're hearing now, and have been hearing for a while, is that there's not much more that we can do to mitigate the situation outside the hub. So this is what we've got. I also want to make sure I note that we have never taken issue with the work that goes on inside the hub. It's good work. We see the magnitude of the need, and we recognize the good intentions and the good work that goes on inside. Our problem is what happens outside. Even like you heard today, that one of the agencies was saying that it's not safe for their staff people to go out into the community, right? So they can keep people safe inside. They can't control what happens outside. I want to just put a marker down there to say that dangerous behavior comes into our neighborhood. And when we create a magnet like the hub, when it's the only daily drop-in site open, then those behaviors come into our community, and we are feeling it. I also want to say that what we're seeing in the South End is much worse since the hub opened. Yes, there was activity going on before. The hub's a magnet. There's two things that are really concerning me that I've noticed recently. There's a zone that's been created, and what we're seeing is that there's kind of a culture to that zone. So even now, people who are not coming to the hub will just come into that zone for open drug use or the socializing, all the other things that come with this. That concerns me. I'm also really concerned, alarmed actually, that I'm hearing stronger and stronger compassion fatigue from my neighbors, and that's not the South End that I know, and I'm really worried about that. Thank you. I think that's almost all I have to say. Just to say that we're scared about what happens next. We're scared about the next steps. Ms. Wood and I have been, talking. We're setting up meetings. We're looking at hearing from our neighbors. We need to talk about what comes next, no matter what. We're also lobbying the provincial government as hard as we possibly can. I have a meeting with the housing minister now in January. That's going to be a solid 25-minute conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Perino has a question.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you to Ms. Robertson. We've talked a few times today about the idea of closing the Nickel side of the hub and moving it over to the Victoria side. What would that do? Would it be better, worse?
It might help the people on the Nickel Street side. I think you'd hear from people from Nob Hill that it would be worse on the other side. Yeah. I think the biggest problem with the hub is that it's the hub. I think we need 4. And this is one of the things I'll be saying to the housing minister and anyone else I can speak to. If I could wave the magic wand, we'd have 2 permanent sites and 2 fabulous mobile sites, mobile, trucks or something.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is that it's the one and only place. I understand that the service providers are really proud of the numbers that they've served, and that, I get that. To us, those numbers are terrifying. That's a lot of visits, a lot of people. It's a lot for one site. It's too much for one site.
So you see that the best way to deal with this problem is to diversify the areas so that people are not all at one spot.
Yeah, diversify the areas, and ideally, again, I get that it's all about money. Ideally, several purpose-built sites.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I also will say that whatever we can do about mitigation for any site, that plan has to come way before the doors open. Because once it's open, then we're just putting out fires, playing catch up. That's really hard. And I acknowledge that the city has been trying a lot of things, right? But we're not catching up.
Well, it's helpful to hear from you, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you so much. There was talk earlier of a meeting happening in January with that's going to involve SICA, and Ms. Wood had mentioned it. Is that meeting being initiated by the city or by SICA?
I'm not actually sure at this point. I know it's come up in conversations, so I'm sorry, I don't remember if we first talked about that at a SICA discussion and said, you know, we should talk to the city about what'll happen later, or if that came up when Ms. Wood and I were talking. I'm not sure.
Okay. No, that's,
that mattered. Yeah.
And maybe that speaks to the good partnership and communication. Doesn't matter who initiated it, it's going to happen. So I'm happy to hear that. And I know that the Public Safety Committee has expressed a desire for to be kept up to speed with it. And I think it's even more critically important that council has really regular updates on the initiatives. And yeah, thanks for sharing your perspective that you're scared about what will happen when the hub closes. I'm also scared about that. I think people taking advantage of the services are worried about that as well. And so yeah, we're in a tough spot for sure, but appreciate your advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. You heard one of the service providers say that they don't believe in diversifying it out to the areas, that it should be kept in one area because it allows the users to get the proper treatments, et cetera. Could you speak to that?
Sure. I do take their point. I understand some of what they're saying. I will say though that in the 18 years I've been here and in the South End, we've always wanted to disperse housing and services through the community. We've always seen that it's not, it creates problems as well when things are too concentrated. What we've said for a long time is that maybe some things need to be located close together and other things don't. So could we perhaps look at dispersing the things that don't need to be close together? We also question some of what comes into that discussion. I need to say this carefully, but I've felt in some meetings, not necessarily with anyone in the room today, that some of the concentration and the preference for it is about the convenience of service providers. Being able to access multiple sites, and I understand, that may be efficient. What really bothers me is that as far as I understand, there's never been a real analysis of the impact on our neighborhood. There's been some talk of it, there's some data, but there's never a real assessment. And I've come to the point where now any thing that's wanting to start up in our neighborhood, I'll be demanding, where's the community impact assessment? Because it's just never been there, and that stuns me. When I'll pick BC Housing for an example. They can take it. They look at things like, are there bus stops close by? Is there shopping close by? Right? Where are the questions about what is this community already carrying? How much can a community stand? Have they studied that? Have they told us that per capita you can carry this much? Yeah, we need those questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming this morning.
Thank you.
Now, Ms. Murray, please. No false starts this time. My fault. You've heard the drill this morning. Please.
Thank you. Well, good morning. My name is Gail Murray. I own and operate the 3 properties on Nichols Street directly across from the hub. I appeared at the last Finance Committee meeting, my first meeting, when the hub was on the agenda, so I'll be brief and I'll try not to be repetitive. But I would like to open by stating that according to Ms. Wood's staff report, the operators have received $1,084,257 in the past 12 months of operations. That doesn't include the nighttime operations, is what I'm just learning. Basically, that's 3,000 taxpayer dollars a day. It does not include the nighttime services. It doesn't include all the other services in the building. It doesn't include the extra garbage pickup, the extra community safety officers, the police call-outs, fire, medical, first responders, and all the infrastructure to support this work. Also, it does not reflect the amount of personal loss experienced by myself, my neighbors, my tenants, neighboring businesses since the hub opened. I'm glad the operators of the hub are able to help some of the homeless. I heard 2 people have gone into recovery, but it isn't about the unhoused. This is about public use of drugs, street disorder, and the lack of community safety for our community members. The people here are not being treated with dignity or respect. I've heard the dignity word used several times. Being lined up all along the main highway in unsafe conditions. You see people driving past, I've witnessed it myself, screaming at them, throwing things at them, using aggression with their vehicles. We have seen effective shelters, some in this area. They don't create the lawlessness that we're experiencing as a result of the operations of this shelter and hub. In my case, it's about personal safety and that of my tenants. It's also about the financial losses that I've suffered as damages that have occurred on my property, the loss of tenants, and potentially the loss of more tenants because they don't feel safe. There appears to be no respect for the law or posted rules of the hub. For example, there's signs at the hub that say no drug dealing, no loitering, no camping, but at any given time, there's people in front of that sign doing just that. I have signs that say private property, no trespassing, but I'm calling daily to have people removed who are doing all sorts of illegal activities on my property, the least of which is trespassing. Many of them are the same people day after day who threaten violence and have created chaos in the lives of myself and my tenants. We hear on a regular basis the types of violence that occurs in our city. I have no idea what weapons the people who trespass on my property carry. I have no idea what criminal history they have. When reporting to police, I'm told this area is difficult to enforce. That's shocking. Daytime is chaotic. We heard that word many times today. Nighttime is equally chaotic. It's noted that some are turned away at shelter at night, then they shelter on my property. They wander around doing their thing while my tenants feel unsafe trying to sleep. I'm also concerned about fires on my property. When the weather changed, I found evidence of 4 fires in the span of a week. It's condoms, it's crack pipes, it's needles, it's used Tampax, it's feces, it's vomit, it's discarded clothing and blankets.
1 minute.
As well as coffee cups, sandwich wrappers, and remnants of the care packages that are just wasted and tossed on my property. To me, this is indicative that their needs are not being met at the hub and shelter. These are traumatic experiences we should not be forced to experience and carry, including our children. I ask this committee, are the individuals coming out of the hub housing ready? If so, why are such areas such as Mackey Road and Old Victoria Road not fully occupied yet? I'd like to close by stating this area is a gateway to Nanaimo, and the reputation of our city is compromised. I also feel that the quality of my life, my tenants, my neighbors, and the neighboring businesses are all being compromised. We reject these circumstances and assert that we deserve to live and work in a safe, healthy, and law-abiding environment without our lives being overwhelmed by the actions of addicts. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the delegation? Councillor Perino?
Thank you. Just as great presentation, just as good as the last one that you did, so thank you for being here. I'm just wondering, do you have any idea what it has cost you to do repairs, cleanups, and so forth over the past year?
It's in the tens of thousands and mounting every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I've had to do mitigations.
Yeah.
But the cleanup, the damage, the graffiti, the fires,
Yeah.
the vandalism, as well as, you know, all of the resources from the police and law enforcement and everybody else that, city works that have to come. But again, I'm not their responsibility when they leave the doors of the shelter. I'm left, it's all private
right.
property, everybody's hands off.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it this morning. And the last delegation is Colin Middleton. Mr. Middleton, good morning. I think you know the drill too. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Mayor and Council, I apologize. I was late coming in. Getting my kid to school, and I didn't realize how many delegations there were going to be here today. I appreciate all the comments that have been coming out of all the delegations today. I think it's a really good dialogue, probably, you know, the type of thing I think we need more of. I'm here just as the president of the Nanaimo Area Public Safety Association. We are a registered nonprofit organization. We have very few members. We do not do any fundraising. We have no public or private funders. We are all just volunteers, all very concerned about the situation in Nanaimo. And we've made a lot of noise in the last couple of years trying to draw attention to these issues here. And I appreciate Mayor and Council and this particular council in taking a nuanced approach to trying to address and hear the cry for help that the citizens that are being both impacted by the crisis and also experiencing crisis themselves. In early 2024, the Nanaimo Area Public Safety Association, under our own steam, released a research document on our website. It's nanaimopublicsafety.org. And it's entitled The Recent Evolution of the Overdose Crisis in Nanaimo and the Impact of Street Disorder on Neighborhoods. It's available for everybody to read, to download. There were 9 recommendations that came out of it. After that was completed, we tried to act on one of the recommendations, which was to actually conduct a study on the impact of street disorder on the neighborhoods. We formulated a survey. We executed that survey. We received about 640 responses over the course of 2 or 3 months where the survey period was active. And then nothing happened with it because we were all overwhelmed. We're all burnt out. We have no funding. We're all just volunteers. I'm a dad to 2 young boys. I have a mortgage to pay, a family to feed, and there is nobody funding public safety advocacy. There is no avenue for getting grants for public safety advocacy or the kinds of education and research tools that we are trying to develop. I'm not here asking for money. There are lots of people asking for money in the city, and you know, we as the 4 board of directors that are, again, all volunteers, we are trying to be part of the solution, and we see as part of that solution is seeking accountability, not only for really how taxpayer dollars are spent and what results are achieved with those taxpayer dollars. Our metric of how well we are doing is how many people are dying by overdose in Nanaimo. That is our primary metric. If numbers are dropping, we think we're going in the right direction. If numbers are increasing, and I'm talking absolute numbers, I'm not talking about
1 minute.
Thank you. I'm not talking about percentage of the population, you know, numbers per 100. I mean absolute numbers, and we have seen some declines. You know, obviously, you know, we, you know, there's nobody patting us on the back for being a loudmouth. We don't necessarily take credit for anything related to the work that everybody is doing to try to turn the dial on this. But there is substantial evidence to suggest that accountability is part of the solution. And we look to senior levels of government, whether it's the provincial government or the federal government, and ask them for, what is your result? How is this getting better? Explain to us. How is the money being spent, and is it working? And that's what we want to see, and really that's what I'm here to just reinforce. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong, please.
Thank you. Two questions, if I may. The first one is, when you're using overdoses as a way to rate stuff, but do you take into account the tainted drug supplies that are out there all of a sudden that will actually spike the loss of death?
Well, to be honest, it's been a while since we've really paid really close attention to what's happening on the street with those patterns. What we have seen is, I mean, the kinds of drugs that are on the street now, I mean, they're not new, right? I mean, benzodiazepines and fentanyl has been around on the street for a decade. You know, we're 10 years into a public health emergency that has had billions of dollars thrown at it, and it's actually gotten worse. You know, the localities of some of the drug supply issues, yeah, that does, you know, we see it, that happens. But we're looking at kind of longer term, broad brush, you know, how are policies actually, and what's being done on the ground helping, you know. The only thing that we know for sure is that the less people use opioids, the less people die of opioids. We know that for sure.
True, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Middleton. Appreciate the presentation this morning. All right, Council, that concludes item C. We've got D and F to go. I just want to thank all of the people who've come this morning to speak to Council. I sense we have a room filled with compassion, but a problem that is almost insurmountable at times, it seems. But appreciate very much the efforts each and every one of you are making in your own way to try and make this community safer and the people in it safer and keep them well. Councillor Eastmere? Sorry, Councillor Gesselbrock, you've got a question?
Yeah, I'm just asking a question around appropriate time to put forward a motion about requesting a meeting with the Minister of Housing on this issue.
That's Councillor Gesselbrock. It's 5 to 12, and we have 3 items. I don't want to have a debate this morning or discussion about other things. Let's leave no motions. This is a report to Council, please. Councillor Eastmere, I appreciate your frustration, and I'm about to hear it, so let's hear it.
Well, I think this has been a really important conversation today, and I don't want to walk out of this meeting without having decided at the very least, to what Councillor Gesselbrecht is mentioning about requesting and reaching out to the Minister of Housing for an urgent meeting. I think that's a very simple motion that we could pass today that would is an obvious next step that we need to do following this conversation.
Councillor Armstrong.
Just in regards to that, like, I understand that it's needed, but I don't see why Councillor Gesselbrock could just not do a notice of motion for the next meeting, and then we could go from there, because nothing's going to happen over Christmas anyhow. So if we stay with our proper governance, I see it as doing a notice of motion for the letter, and even that we could probably do it that particular day because it's just a letter. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Gesselbrock. Giving us a notice of motion to send a request a meeting with the Minister of Housing. Fair?
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I've got the words here. That the mayor and council write to the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs requesting a meeting to discuss the urgent need for funding for a daytime drop-in homelessness resource hub, as well as other housing-related priorities.
Thank you very much. Appreciated. Again, thank you, everyone. On to council expenses for the 9 months ending 2025, September 30th. Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report provides a summary of the year-to-date expenses for each member of council as at September 30th of 2025. So give you 1 minute.
Your worship, we'll just give people a minute there to, I said we'll just give people a minute to exit the room. I think it was hard to hear.
The good news is it's a smaller number than budgeted.
So this information is compiled all year and is included in the Statement of Financial Information, or the SOFI report that is produced at the end of the year. I will note that it appears there's been some social media discussion about the different budget amounts for each councillor. So at the beginning of the year, each councillor starts out with a total budget, and this year was $14,100. And which is shown here for Councillor Eastmere, as she attended the FCM conference in 2025, and other councillors did not. So we, before we did completed final budget, we adjusted the budgets for each councillor, as we knew that some of them were not attending some of the conferences. So that is why you're seeing the different levels of funding. So I just wanted to clear that up, as that before final, we knew who was going where, and we adjusted the budgets accordingly, and that it's not just one councillor, you know, being entitled to more than others. That's everybody starts out with the same, and we just adjusted this year. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you very much, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. I would just request in future that the budget, because we all get $14,100, and that's how it should be done, is that's what we get. The year-to-date will then show what we spent, because it really has caused a lot of confusion, and it's caused a lot of issues for Councillor Eastmere, which I don't believe is fair, because technically our budget is our budget, period. This is what we're given, and if we don't use it, then guess what? It can carry over to next year. So I would request next year that the budget show exactly what we're allowed to spend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's just a report. The next is financial results for the 9 months ending 2025, September 30th. Again, Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report provides the committee with the financial results of the city as at September 30th, and it includes information on both day-to-day operations and projects. So I'll do a brief intro to each section, the first being operating results. So at the end of Q3, we're projecting a $8,760,800 surplus for all three funds, and that breaks down to the general at $7,426,200. The sewer fund is $25,300, and the water fund is $1,318,300. Those are all surpluses. Attachment A will give you a brief description of any of the variances over $100,000, and Attachment B gives you an overview of all the operating variances for all the departments. For the general fund, that's $7,426,200. The bulk of that comes from position variance vacancies, and the city, as the city continues to experience recruitment challenges, we might be making some progress on filling some of those positions. So hopefully for 2026, that's less of a variance driver. We had additional grants in lieu of taxes this year, about $223,000, $400,000 more in interest income, as the interest rate reductions weren't as impactful as we had anticipated. And the RCMP contract is estimated to be $2 million under budget this year. And so I think that's the most significant notes there. We had higher than expected water user fees as well, so that's why you're seeing an over $1 million increase there. So staff will bring to council a decision report in February or March that will provide surplus allocation options for the year end. So just a reminder, per the reserve policy, any reserve that has fallen below its minimum balance will be topped up first, and then the remaining balance will be allocated based on staff and council recommendations. Currently, we know we have 4 allocations. So $2 million will go to the RCMP reserve, as that's the estimated surplus in that budget. There will be $1,035,000 will go to the 2026 project contingency budget, and that was a council direction back in October. $257,000 will increase the snow and ice control reserve to bring it up to the balance needed, and $149,900 is grant funding for the Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island, and again, that was a council direction back in November. And that will leave approximately $3,984,000 left to allocate, and we will come back at that time. For projects, we have projects in the report are broken down into 4 status categories: complete or substantially complete, in progress, not started, or on hold, delayed. The project total budget was $138.5 million. To September 30th, $87.4 million has been spent or committed, and that leaves approximately $51.1 million to be spent by the end of the year. 22% of projects are complete or substantially complete, 56 are in progress, 19% are not started, and 3% on hold. Now, attachment C will give you the breakdown of a summary overview of projects in each division and highlights the bigger projects within each of those areas. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong?
Yes, my question's on the actual reserves of $2 million going to the police. I know they're in contract negotiations again, and looking at latest settlements, I believe again that the E Division RCMP are about 2 to 3% under what's going to happen. Have we taken that into account?
Through your worship to Councillor Armstrong, at the end of each year we do an allocation based on what E Division gives us, and that goes into, we do account for that in our liabilities, and then so we anticipate that this reserve will fund any shortfall that comes in more than that liability we have set up.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any further questions on this item. Appreciate it. And the final one is quarterly purchasing report, single and sole source purchases in excess of $150,000 and instances of exceptions to trade agreements.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, a lot of words. This is for the period July 1st to September 30th. And attachment 1 outlines your sole and single source purchases. Attachment 2 outlines purchases over $250,000, and there were 4 instances of non-compliance with procurement policy for the quarter ending September 30th, and 3 of those resulted from the scope of the project grew beyond its initial expectations, and 1 had 2 paving projects that came in over that $75,000 threshold. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Not seeing any. Thank you very much. Ms. Gurries, there's no other business that I'm aware of. Doubt very much there's any question period. Motion for adjournment. Moved Councillor Prino, seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those